Hello and welcome back to another episode of Podcast 572. As always, I'm your host, Kyle. I'm joined by my two friends, Dan and Matt. And once again, we have our special guest, Mr. Ryan Niemiller, back to join us.
Yeah, back for the trifecta, I think.
There you go.
Third time, I believe.
Third time.
The third one's typically not as good, though, right?
Third time
on trilogies.
Well, because like the first one, you know, I weirdly wanted to do a good job,
right?
So you want to bring me back. The second time, I'm like, well, they brought me back, so they already like me enough. And if you bring me back a third time, now I can just phone it in. I don't have to actually, you know.
And he's going to be on mute for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, you'll bring me back as much as I want now. You're like, you're all like Star Wars fans now. You're hooked where you'll complain about it, but if I do a new thing, you're going to be like, yeah, we're going to go watch it.
Exactly.
Damn right.
How are you guys?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, yeah. How have you been?
Dream.
How's touring been?
Touring's it's been fun. It's a little less than it was because I can't remember how long ago I was on here. Did my baby exist last time I was here?
Yes,
I think so.
Okay.
Yes.
The baby actually existed. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the baby exists in a more high maintenance way now. I'm being a little selective with how I tour right now. Just has to be worth me leaving because I'm kind of stay at home dadding right now.
Sure.
But
Gotcha.
the shows are going well. I got a new hour about being a dad, which is cool.
That's
so,
good. Yeah.
if you're a comedian listening to this and you need new material, just get someone pregnant. It should work out for you. It's a good. I think it's very responsible to do. It worked for me. But shows are good.
It becomes
Baby's good.
a write-off at that point, I think, right? Because it's for work.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's why I had 4.
So I think the last time you were here, you were getting ready to go to the Portland Retro Expo.
Yes.
So why don't you tell us about how that was?
It went well. So I to kind of recap anyone who might remember, I was doing a show there. The show did not go great. It went fine, but it was it was a weird situation. So like they do a big auction one of the nights, and they auction off some like really cool stuff, like stuff that was neat to see that I probably will never see in person again. you know, like these rare like LED light kind of things.
Like fiber optic signs,
like that kind of stuff. I got to see the SNES exercise bike for the first time in person.
Oh, wow.
Exactly. So there was some really cool stuff. But to kind of like the preview to that was me doing like 45 minutes of comedy as everyone was kind of coming in and sitting down and doing it. And
it's an interesting warm-up for a video game auction.
Yeah, like acoustically it wasn't amazing in there for such a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, I'm not going to say I bombed, but a lot of people were confused with what was happening.
Sure.
because generally speaking, there's not like real stand-up comedy at a convention like this, you know, like that's just not like an event people are expecting when they go to this. So I think a lot of people were just like, all right, this is
what is happening. Is
okay, like
filing in and
like what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So that part was, you know, and there's an old joke, you know, not every show's Carnegie Hall, and you know, it's just one that you sort of. I had fun being there and hanging out with everybody, but the show itself is. But I think I got to do a talk as well. I got to do one of the panels, which was cool. With Brennan, my buddy who works at Microsoft, as part of the accessibility team there. So we were talking about accessibility in gaming, and that went really well. I actually have that full video if anyone ever wants to check it out. It's on my YouTube, which is youtube.com/cripplethreat8. I had the full talk on there. I was really happy with how that went. So if I think of a topic, they want me to come back and talk again next year. I just haven't thought of a topic yet.
Right.
Okay. Maybe I'll talk about why stand-up comedy doesn't work at cons. That'll be my topic.
Did you get to pick up anything cool while you were there, like collecting wise, or?
A little bit. So I added to my N64 collection a bit. The biggest thing I got was Bomberman Second Attack.
Oh,
okay.
Which is little. Cool. It's probably one of the top 12 or so pricey games for the console.
Yeah,
it's up
around there. Yeah,
it's like a $200 kind of game. So that was the biggest thing I got. With the baby, I sort of had pulled back a little bit on the real high stuff,
Mm-hmm.
But the first morning I was there, I watched a dude literally right in front of me drop like $7,000 on boxed N64 games, and I'm like, this is a different type of the place for what I normally do.
It's crazy when you see somebody do that. Yeah, like you watch some guy just come up and he looks at a couple things and he just goes, "How much for the whole box?" And the guy behind the counter is just like, it's a couple thousand. And the guy's like, okay. Okay. One table for me.
And like the booth open or the market floor opened at like 9 a.m. This was like 9:12.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
damn.
On the first day, he's already like that guy came in with a fucking mission. He had things to do. So, and I'm a collector. I like the slow burning kind of collecting personally. Financially, there's been times where it's like, if I want to just drop the money to have an entire N64 collection right now and just be done with it, I probably could do that. I'd have to talk to my wife about why I did that. But part of the fun is like going to different places and going to different stores and I found this here and I found that there. Some people are just like, no, I'm gonna go ahead and just write the check.
Just do it now.
Yeah, we're done.
I always find that those people tend to be the ones where it's like in 2 years they just sell it all.
Yeah.
I've
seen that.
It's not. Whereas, like I think like people like us, it takes a lot for me to sell anything that kind of thing because it's more about, like you said, like the hunt and like, oh, I was in a Half Price Books, 45 minutes from here, and they had a game I've been looking for a year. Or something, and I'll never sell that because of how I got it.
Exactly.
There's certain stuff, and part of having the baby too. And I don't know if you guys experienced this when you had kids, but like you sort of like reevaluate like the stuff you have and what's actually important or not. So like I will be moving some of my stuff here, probably in the next year. I'm still going to own way more than normal people should.
Right. Yeah.
That's the thing with people are like, you're going to sell some stuff. I'm like, I literally own 4,000 games.
Yeah,
like,
it's not what you think. Yeah.
I'm going to be okay. I'm still going to have way too many. But it makes you start looking at things like, all right, do I need to go for a complete PS2 collection at this point in my life and have all these like weird movie tie-in games and all these FIFAs and stuff like is that something I need to cover the space that is now more limited in my house? I'm making those kind of decisions now. And then looking at the stuff that's like, my copy of EVO for Super Nintendo, I'll never sell because my wife got it for me for a birthday present.
Right.
Like that's like an important thing to me. So it's like making those decisions as opposed to like, some dude in Oklahoma gave me a box of this stuff. Like, why do I need that? There's nothing special to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess before the rest of us jump in what we've been playing, have you been playing anything since last time we talked to you?
So yes and no. So nothing I've been able to deep dive in story wise.
Sure.
It's an excuse to anyone who doesn't have kids, but like you guys know, like I would love to play Tears of the Kingdom, for instance. I've not had the time to sit down and do 200 hours of a game that requires 200 hours. So I just finished Brotato recently, which I enjoyed for what it was. Game Pass was nice for that. Just because it's a comfort food game and I can dip in and out of it whenever I want. I'm playing Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball for Super Nintendo. One of my favorite games ever.
Love those games.
Yeah. It's why I always get mad when like YouTube video game guys are always just like, every sports game sucks. And I'm like, no, like there's, you're not playing the right sports games.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of them are cookie cutter, copy and paste, whatever. But like, there's a huge arcade charm to Ken Griffey Jr. baseball, and you don't have to be a baseball fan.
In that era of where they were like just naming every sports game after a player, like every player had to have his own sports game, to the point where like Mike Piazza has a baseball game.
Yep. A real bad one for
not
N64.
good at all. Yeah. But yeah, it's like the Ken Griffey ones. I even really like the 64 one a lot. Like I played that game to death, to the point where I couldn't lose anymore at a certain point. So then the game kind of loses its luster, but I still remember playing that.
Yeah, and those games are cool just from a historical standpoint, because Ken Griffey Jr. got all those games because that's when Nintendo owned the Seattle Mariners.
Yes.
So it's like that's a weird I know I'm starting to sell some stuff. I'm still looking for one of the DSs. The DSs that they used to sell. I don't know if it's called Safeco anymore, but at the Mariners Stadium, that you literally could only buy this Mariners licensed DS if you went to a game at the stadium.
Yeah. That was always one of those cool, like, one-off random DSs. I mean, there's a ton of them, but that's one of the cooler ones to me, I think, too.
Yeah, he had neat stuff. Like one of the neat little things I have, it was a promotional thing for a game. One, like, they always do, like, the first 30,000 get this.
Oh, yeah.
I have a pin. It's a Mario, like, in the style of Super Mario 3. Kind of like him flying, like where he would have the raccoon tail, but it's him in a Seattle Mariners baseball uniform.
That's really
and it's just a little pin, and I'm like, that's a cool little thing.
Yeah,
that like just one of those little footnotes in history,
one-off random promotion thing that there might have been 30,000 that day, but how many are still around?
Who kept them, who didn't, who
throw it away in the stadium,
right.
What's this little stupid thing? And they toss it in the garbage
especially
can. Especially
from that era.
$10 beer. Yeah.
Wild.
But yeah, we can jump into what we've been playing. So the biggest thing that we've been playing, which I'm gonna read, and we got an email about it, and then I think this will be the first time, Dan, you and I are playing it, so we'll tag team it. But we got this from Henry from Grosse Pointe, Michigan. Hey guys, how are you all enjoying Final Fantasy VII Rebirth? Do you feel like they've knocked it out of the park with this release? Personally, now that we have part 2 and know that this will be a 3-part project, I'm more confident that they can pull it off. And I will say, like, I agree with his sentiment in the email, because like I had the same feeling up until they showed like whatever trailer where they actually really showed what Rebirth was. Because remember when they first announced Rebirth, it was like that weird trailer with Sephiroth, and you're kind of like, I don't know what is this going to be, especially with how the first part of this game ends in the remake. You're kind of like, I don't know where, they could do something completely different, which there's some stuff. I mean, we could talk about it, but like for the most part, like it is straight up, continuing the remake of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah.
So
and the weirdest part about it is like it is and it isn't at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we'll probably be best to stay away from spoilers. Things that are like unique to this game. I think they're like the main story beats that have happened in the previous game. They're all still kind of happening, but I will say the first 10 minutes of this game is incredibly confusing.
It's very confusing.
It makes, especially like going against even like the demos I played and like the trailers and stuff they showed. When that first 10 minutes, like you go through that, I said to myself out loud, what the hell is happening twice?
So I didn't play the demo. You play the demo. So that first 10 minutes is not in the demo.
No, they didn't reveal that to anyone.
Okay.
And so when you're experiencing it, it makes you question everything that happened in the first game. Like,
it makes you question actually the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I thought I had to rethink the ending of the first game to be like, is this how it went? Yeah. And then, they do that thing and then they flip to what you expect it to be with like them in calm and going over the story. And they don't even mention it. Like, it's just that happened. Okay, move on. And they haven't. There are 2 times of it. There's 2 times they've kind of gone back to it a little bit. But even then, it's weird one-off things you kind of have to be paying attention to.
For sure.
To be like, is that linking to what's going on?
Yeah.
And
it's weird.
I can tell you, like, the theories I have about what's actually going on right now are so insane that I don't think they're true.
Yeah.
Like, but they could be. And that's like the craziest part of the whole thing is like,
yeah,
it could be. I'll just say that like my prevailing theory this far, and Kyle and I we're at the exact same point in the game.
We're at the same exact part in the game. Yeah.
And so we've just left Costa del Sol, which means, I think you said the game. I didn't want to leave either. I want to say that part. That's where the game should end. But you said the game says you're like 40% of the way through.
Yeah,
I don't even see how that's possible.
So the PlayStation, so PlayStation 5 has this thing where it seems. I don't think it's for every game either. I think it's specifically for like first party games or like whatever they consider
games
big,
that like
huge
include
titles.
Tracking.
Yeah. And this game does, but it legitimately will say on the side, like next to how many hours you've played, you are this percentage done with the game. So for me, it says 42%.
So and mine would probably be about the same.
It doesn't seem right.
It can't be because I feel like we're nowhere.
So
like I think we just finished chapter 6 out of 14, and that's probably what it's calculating it off of.
I've put 30 hours into it, but I will admit like 3 to 4 of those hours were me just grinding that stupid card game out to win that tournament because I'm not very good at the card game. So.
The card game is weird. It's
weird.
It takes a lot to get used to, and like building a deck is actually really important.
Very
strategies don't work against every person you play. No. I like the card game. I don't like. Some people are saying it's better than other. I don't think it's better than Tetramaster. I think that's still better.
Tetramaster is from 9.
That's 8.
That's 8. Okay, that was the Guardian Force.
Yeah, and then 9 had like a slightly twist on that, and then 14 has it too.
Okay.
So I don't think it's better than those per se, but like it is good. I wish it had more variety though. Like that game would be so much better if they had boards that were different shapes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like imagine it was like almost 5 by chessboard 5 type or 5 by 3 or something like that. There'd be a lot more ways to play the game. Be more interesting.
For sure. But like the game is incredible.
It's unbelievable. Like it's so good.
There's so many like little attentions to detail. Like one of my favorite things is when you get into a battle, like it still has the same 3-person party, but when you get into a battle, the people that are not in like your predetermined party are just hanging out in the background helping you.
Yeah.
So like
kind of running around
the fight. Like for example, if I didn't have Barrett in my party, he's in the background. He will actually shoot and damage enemies. It won't be a lot.
It's a little bit. Like it's not enough to draw like attention away or anything like that. No. But it's an interesting
like detail.
Well, just something
think
like,
about.
It would make sense if this were happening. It would be there
for sure. The voice acting still like I think every single character's voice is nailed the way that you would want it to be. Like even since the last time we talked, I played through the Yuffie DLC to the point now I have her in the. I'm sure you have her in the game too because that happens at the end of Costa del Sol. Yeah, and like she's a fantastic character too. And they did it. I mean, now that I played it, I can agree with you. Like they did a good job of fleshing out her backstory in a way that like they don't really talk about that much.
She's relevant.
Final Fantasy.
The original one, she just kind of seems like a random side character you pick up. And now it actually feels like she's part of the group and part of the story.
I know you can answer this because who are the other characters left that are playable?
Kate Sitz is the only one left.
The only one. Okay. And then Sid and Vincent are not
Kate
playable.
Sitz should be relatively soon after where we are because the next thing to do is to go to Coral and then go to the Gold Saucer.
Yeah.
But then if you think about that, like Vincent and Sid are both still in the game, which means we have to go back to Nibelheim. We have to do that part. We have to go to Rocket Town. We probably have to get to Tiny Bronco. Like we have to go to the Temple of the Ancient. Like there's so much stuff left.
I know. And that's why I'm like,
I already feel, I don't want to, overwhelmed isn't the right word, but it's just, there's so much shit to do. It is crazy.
There's tons of side quests and different things.
Go investigate these crystals. Go fight these guys. Go. I laugh because they have the towers, but they're just little tiny things. They're not like
this game has the typical like Ubisoft towers.
Yeah,
for the open world. With that I'd say the only thing I dislike about the game, but I didn't like it in the first remake part 2 is that Chadley character. Cannot stand.
There's too much of him.
Too much.
It's too much.
And like he's a dick, right?
Oh, he's a robot.
He can be kind of a dick.
How much of a dick in a robot?
I guess, but like I had a situation.
I mean, he's a robot made by Hojo, so
all robots are dicks.
That's
all right?
true.
I don't trust my microwave. I don't trust anything. Like they're all dicks.
Like I hadn't done anything for a while with what he wants to do, and then I had a conversation with him, and he just made some like dickish comment to the effect that it was just like, wow, you really haven't investigated those towers in a while. You're a big warrior or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about? So, but yeah, I have virtually no complaints about the game at all.
It's very little. Like, yeah, it's
exceeded
just
my expectations for it.
Yeah, and the weirdest thing to say is like, it is very different than the first one.
Yeah, no,
right?
it's just the first one is more self-contained.
Sure.
And it's again also because of the area that you're in, because it deals with, you know, Midgar and everything, like before you get outside. It's very gray, it's very of that, and this is very colorful because now you're in the world, so that helps for like the difference. This is also my favorite chunk of the game.
Well, it's the best part of the game. Yeah, I mean, you could even argue in like the original release that like everything up through Midgar is like feels like its own game.
It does.
And then the game changes.
Makes sense why I still like you and I both agree like they should not have named the first part remake. They should have named it Chapter 1 or
who knows how far ahead they thought at that point.
I don't think they did.
No.
I don't think they originally sat down and said, okay, this is going to be 3 parts. They didn't know.
Or I don't think that.
I would imagine they were trying to, like, in theory, they were like, oh, we'll just get the whole game done and release a remake of Final. And then they went, oh, the scope of this is way bigger than we thought.
I don't think they realized what it actually meant to like remake this game the way that they have, introducing completely new characters who just seamlessly fit into everything, and what they want to tell with the story with, like, you know, the whispers and stuff in the first one with like, is it the same? Is it not? Kind of a thing.
And I also think, like, especially if you go all the way back to like the PS3, like early days of it, like that launch where they showed that original trailer, like let's say if that time they were going to do that, right? Like, there's no way the scope of what this is would have worked at that time.
It probably wouldn't have been
I don't think it would have.
I honestly don't think a PS3 remake of Final Fantasy VII would have been any good.
No, I don't think it would have. It would have worked in the way that it is now with this and how it's set,
being 2 discs big.
Yeah, how did I was going to ask? How did the install go? Because
it's just an install on a play disc. It's just an install, and then that's pretty much it.
Tells you to put the other.
And the play
they
disc
didn't misprint it like they did in Japan.
No, the American ones are correct. Kind of a bummer. I would like to have a misprint copy. I think more people would.
So that it's a tremendous game so far.
I have virtually no complaints. I also think the game is good because it's more challenging than the first one, for sure.
It is. Some of the battles can definitely.
You don't seem to level as fast as you did in the first game. I also think it's bizarre that they just start you at like level 15. Like, that's a choice, I guess.
It's a little weird. Yeah.
If it's going to be the kind of game where I'm not keeping really anything from the first game, like you don't keep weapons, materia, nothing. No. Just start it at 1. I don't understand the starting at 15. If you started at 15, 15 is the 1.
Yeah, I was going to say that defeats the purpose.
Just go, it's like turning your amp to 11. It doesn't mean anything.
What does 1 look like? Yeah, what does 1 look like if
this is 1?
It's 50. Yeah, it's the
it's a little weird. I will say the other thing too about this game that's a little bit much is there are a lot of systems in this game, like crafting items, synergy abilities, other kinds of abilities, unlocking set abilities, equipping weapon effects. Like just dump it on you.
It has the materia system, but then it also has like the sphere grid going on too.
But materia is also like blown up. There's so many more materias. You can get, instead of having a fire and an ice, you can have one that's both. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, in this one, there's different types too. You
can do a lot more stuff with materia. That is just outrageous. And I barely scratched the surface of that.
Are you the other thing I was going to ask is we had talked about it before because you played the demo. Are you playing it on performance or graphics?
I decided to play it on graphics.
You are doing it. Okay.
Just
I couldn't do the juddery.
I don't really have a problem with it, but like there are, even on graphics, I have seen 1 or 2
things that look a little funky.
Things that are weird for maybe a second or 2 that I probably wouldn't have noticed. But
the only thing I'll say on performance mode, like visually, I haven't seen anything where I'm like, wow, that doesn't look good, but it does have this weird blur effect that they are aware of, because I did see somewhere they're working on a patch. So there are times where, like, for example, if you're standing next to one of those towers and you whip the camera around really fast, like there's this very weird blurring effect going on.
Even on performance, like graphics, like
you see that a little bit.
Yeah, it's just not. I think this game is too big even for what they thought it was going to be, and like they need to keep patching it like crazy.
I think the install digitally was like 148.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
I had to remove stuff from my PlayStation.
I did
get this installed.
It's crazy.
So, but enjoying.
All right,
it.
let me throw this out there as a theory, which I won't go into too much why I think this is, but I want to see if you agree just based on the couple scenes.
Okay.
I think there are two timelines.
Okay.
Running alongside each other.
Okay.
And I think that Aerith is aware of it.
But she's the only one that's aware of it?
There might be one other character who is, and I won't say who it is, but
yeah, makes sense.
You know who it is. It's the other person that's with her when this stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are two timelines.
Okay.
And I think it's where in A, which is the one you're playing, it's playing out like the original story was.
Okay.
And B is where the first 10 minutes happened.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And
that seems kind of like what might be
dead in one of them at one time and one in the other time.
Yeah. Okay.
And it kind of seems like they're crossing at certain moments.
It does.
So, like I said, I have no clue how it's going to play out. It's just so crazy because every time I feel like, oh, it's the same game I'm playing. I remember that first 10 minutes and go, I want to know what the hell happened. And I don't want to have to wait another 50 hours until you explain to me what happened. Yeah. Because it's killing me. And I was talking to somebody else who played. I told my friend who was leaving for vacation and he wasn't going to get a chance to play the game. I said, you just have to play the first 10 minutes, please. So he installed the game and he played the 10 minutes and he just texted me like, what the fuck just happened? Yeah. And he's like, this is all I can play right now. So I was like, okay, good. So now that's in your brain on vacation. Enjoy that.
Enjoy having a ruined vacation now.
That's all you're going to do
with this.
What is going on? I think that too, like it's driving me crazy, but it makes me excited to play the game.
It does. It does for sure.
I desperately want to know. And avoiding spoilers has been, I don't want to say difficult, but they're out there and it's tough. If I even see it,
close.
IGN got close with one headline. Close. Yeah,
they're getting close. The other thing I'll say, the last thing I'll say on it is like it's done such a great job to perfection of classic scenes, but updating them. Mm-hmm. Like you have the classic scene of did Sephiroth do this, but they did a twist on it.
Oh, that was one thing I
didn't care for that.
I did like the scene and I like how it was handled. But can we get over the thing in video games where I'm running in this swamp, but all of a sudden I'm somehow also 50 feet deep? You know what I mean? Like this, it's a flat surface with water on it, but then I get sucked under it 50 feet under. It's like, well, how did that happen? It didn't happen. But then, you know what I mean? So that would stuff like that in video games always kind of takes me out of it because I agree that video games work on like some sort of logic, like within their own universe. But when you break your own universe's logic for like a story beat, it kind of takes me out of it. It's a little weird. But I did think that scene was interesting about how it played out.
I think every classic scene so far that like I've been looking forward to seeing has been done very well. Mm-hmm. Like I don't have any that I've got. Well, that's a little weird.
The beach stuff with Hojo is cool. That becomes a whole new thing in this game.
Kind of,
like what's going on.
I like that. All the stuff at the beginning, which you played in the demo, I didn't, so I got to experience for the first time here. But like everything there with like Sephiroth, obviously going down, reading the book, finding out everything. And
mm-hmm. Well, I also like that. Like they flesh out more of the aftermath of like Tifa was basically left for dead, and Cloud just was like, "I'm out of here," and he left. And, it was cool to see the two of them address that. And have a conversation about it.
They do,
where he is like, I saw you, and then she kind of shows him, and she's like, "But you left."
How about just running around that town in the beginning of the game? Like
crazy
again, like after playing that so many times on the PS1. Yeah, it's like
the PS1
is insane what they've done.
3 or 4 doors you can go in, and most of them are shops. This is a full town.
It's
with
ridiculous.
People walking around doing their own stuff. Like,
there's like you take like one turn around a corner, and like there's people just playing some jazz. Yeah, like in the middle of the street. Like it's crazy.
You go to the Chocobo Ranch, and it's like a whole big thing. It's not just a guy at a barn. It's just everything.
The Chocobo is also playing jazz. It's just very deep.
You have to unlock that one. It's a different colored Chocobo. Like they do that. The Chocobo stuff is really good where they realize that getting around this place is going to be a lot harder to do. So it's like you just have one, just call it. And then I think that it will at least make it where like, in the old one, you had to breed Chocobos to get one that could climb mountains. And this one, it's you just make it to the next area. It's like, do a quest. Here's the Chocobo that climb mountains. Thank God. Cuts out 40 hours of the game breeding Chocobos.
But yeah, I think the next time that we record, we'll probably be close to the end, I would assume. So
I'll
we'll be
close.
able to talk more.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only other thing I played maybe briefly, and this has literally dominated everything that I played in the last 2 weeks, but I played a little more Helldivers too. I mean, not much more to say. It's Helldivers. Fantastic. It still continues to be fantastic.
You saw Mex got liberated today, right?
I did see that. Yeah,
that's a cool way to do it. I love how they did it, where it's tied to an in-game event. They are doing the live service thing in a way that you would want them to do, like somebody to do a live service game. The last time I feel like a live service game has done stuff this way and like correctly is Destiny. Because Destiny had a large thing built around if people do enough of this stuff, or if people put the pieces together, it'll unlock.
Or the loot cave.
Yeah. Well, the loot cave where everybody just hangs out. But Helldivers, like the fact that to get mechs you had to basically like liberate a planet, that's a cool idea. And that's something they can continue to play off of.
I will say I did get my copy of Unicorn Overlord today. It actually came on time from Amazon. First game release I bought from Amazon in probably 6 months. It came the day and date that it's supposed to. I don't know when I'll get a chance to look at it, but I do have that now.
I'm worried that I need to buy that now, even though I won't play it for like a year.
It's an Atlas game.
I know.
You need to buy it now.
And I was kind of on the fence. I was kind of on the fence, and then every review is like, 9. I'm like,
every review is like, it's better. Because it's the studio that made what's the other strategy game that they just put out last year?
Not Dragon's Dogma, but
Dragon's Crown.
Dragon's Crown.
No.
Okay, yeah.
Well, they did make
it is
that,
Vanillaware.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did something else more recently, and then this is their obviously the new hot shit that they made. So, but it is an Atlas game, so that was my selling point of like, okay, I need to buy this.
Push Square gave it a higher rating than Rebirth.
That's crazy.
I don't know.
But that wraps up what I've played. I will kick it over to you, Dan, because you have something else that I'm very interested in.
The only other thing I did was just play Power Wash Simulator DLC, which is just all the Warhammer stuff.
Is it good?
It's good. DLC? Yeah, it's really good. Like I finished all of it. It's mainly like cleaning mechs and tanks and stuff, and they're definitely more complicated cleans, I guess you would say, where you really have to like get underneath and like get in like crevices and stuff. It's pretty
levels? It's like giving me a bath.
Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah. Get on the ladder.
Have your hazmat suit on.
Yeah. Use green brush for the beginning spray and red for those real tight areas.
Yeah, get it right.
I want to say there's like 5 or 6. I can't remember.
Okay.
And I
kind of pretty lengthy, yeah.
I'm kind of blurring on it because the last one is fucking long. It is a giant fucking airship. And it's even got like, you can raise and lower the wings so you can get underneath. God. It's like, oh my God. There's 2 scaffoldings in that level, multiple ladders. You have to get underneath it and go around. Like, it's crazy.
But you've done the Back to the Future, because I've done that one too.
I did that one
too. Did you do the SpongeBob one? Or
no, I wish listed it because I would like for it to be on sale. Because I don't care that much.
That one's okay.
Yeah, I did the SpongeBob one. I liked it. I thought it was very fun.
But yeah, the Warhammer one, it's good. It's just, just keep adding more packs to this stuff, and I'll probably just keep buying it. I don't care. But that last one, it literally, it took me 2 days to finish it. Like I had to stop because it was so much. So much cleaning. But yeah, it's fun. It's it looks good too. Like the they did up all the like the areas and stuff that you do it where it's like in this like underground base thing, and it's all metal, and there's like built-in scaffolds to the arena so that you don't even have to put one up. You could just climb up these things behind it because they know you need to. Yeah, it's good.
But yeah,
that's the only other thing.
It's just you and I have just been Rebirth. How about you, Matt?
Helldivers 2 has taken over my life. Yeah, honestly, I've played some Helldivers 2. I got really stoked for the new update that's coming out. It's just been nice to play with friends that I haven't played games with that have now bought it and then just like jumped in. So it's really cool to do that. The only other thing I started doing again is I started tackling Kingdom Hearts 3.
Okay.
Because I never finished it. And I was like, I got to this point and I was just like, I'm going to take a break for a minute. And then I got rid of my PlayStation Plus subscription And then now I'm like, you know what? Let's just load up all the games that I need to work on, and we'll just start going one through one. So I jumped back into that, and then I remembered I'm at the Pirates of the Caribbean stage. So I'm not sure where that is inside the game because I haven't really looked at anything. But it's cool. I kind of got back into the groove and just kind of got hooked again. So hopefully I can tackle more of that this week. Hopefully, because
Matt, this is why I like you. You make me not feel bad about myself because almost everyone else I know that's a big game guy, I'm going to play Rebirth eventually. I haven't ever started Remake. I'm way behind. Everyone has this I don't know how you all jump on the games right away and have that discourse. And then I like Matt where he's just like, hey, Kingdom Hearts 3 from 5 years ago? Yeah, that's man. What I'm doing this week. Hell yeah.
They made fun of me. What was it? A couple months ago, I was playing Ratatouille on Game Boy Advance. I was like, shit, you know what? I just felt I got to introduce some shit.
Yeah. You are my type of gamer. My brother makes fun of me constantly for that kind of stuff. He's like, are you playing this? I'm like, no, I'm playing Brave based on Disney's Pixar Brave for the 360.
I just can't. I get to the point, I think the last game that really swallowed me and I finished it was Spider-Man. But I had a deadline because I was borrowing my friend's PS5. So I was like, I got a week to do this. I'm going to nail this and I'm going to just run through it. And I did. But I can't jump. I haven't played Remake yet. I had it downloaded for the PS4. I just never touched it. And I'm probably not going to play Rebirth, honestly. Just because, to be honest, I haven't really played Final Fantasy VII, the original. I have it. I have 2 versions of it.
Well, it exists on 9 different consoles.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I think I own 4 versions of the original. If I think about it, I think I have the Windows one. I have the Xbox digital. I have the PS1, the actual disc, and I might have it for Switch in some way too. I think I might have bought the 7 and 8 physical.
Thing? Yeah, whatever. I still need to do that.
See,
I don't need to, but I will do it. Is what I mean.
Well, we don't need to do any of this. If you really want to get to it, that's not a conversation we need to have. We don't need to have that come to Jesus moment now during this podcast. No.
There you go.
So yeah, you need to get it.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear.
And then
if I'm good for anything, it's enabling. That's why we're here.
Yeah, you are. You're a horrible enabler. But I also then discovered. I guess I haven't been paying attention, but they got a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mayhem game coming out based off of
it's supposed to be set between that movie and then whatever the next movie is in 2026.
So now I'm like, well, shit. Now I'm on this kick of looking for every single Ninja Turtle game. So now I gotta
not a bad kick.
Jump on this bandwagon. Yeah. So far,
I mean, you can get the collection that takes care of a huge chunk of them if you don't have that already.
No, it's not the same. I have the collection, and it's still not the same. I need every physical copy.
Because you need all those really bad GameCube ones.
Yeah.
Battle Nexus.
Yeah.
Yep. I want them all. Everything.
Those Turtles games that have 4 Ninja Turtles in it that are 2 players. You need those games.
I want all of those. All of those horrible ones. I don't know why. I just got an addiction, and I got to get it done.
I told you. I think I told you last year. I've just been buying every baseball game I can find. It doesn't even matter anymore. I buy terrible baseball games everywhere. If I see it and I don't have it, oh, sure. They're cheap, and it's just a weird, sub-collection of games I have.
Yeah. But yeah, that's me. I will say today, I was looking through Steam when I had a moment off of work, and I saw this game called Supermarket Simulator was on sale.
I watched somebody play it, yeah.
I don't know why.
Pretty new?
But these simulator games got a hook on me because I got gas station simulator and police simulator.
There's a taxi one that just came out.
See, I'm just trying to do normal, average, everyday shit. Just in the video game world.
Yeah, I want to have a second job after I get done with my normal job.
Yeah, I know. I just worked 8 hours, but I want to stock these fucking shelves. Leave me alone. Give me some time, okay? So I got that, and then. What is it? SimCity? I think I was on sale at Steam too, so I just grabbed that, and I think I'm going to dive into both of those this week because they look pretty interesting.
I'm gonna read. I just looked it up, so I'm gonna read this because I didn't know this existed.
The supermarket one.
I'm gonna literally buy this when we're done.
It's really good. I watched some guy play it for like 2.5 hours because I don't even buy it. I just watch people play these games.
Run your own supermarket, stock shelves, set prices as you'd like, take payments, hire staff, expand and design your store. Online orders and delivery, shoplifters, security, local market are upcoming.
Yeah, it's in like a weird early release thing.
Yeah,
but
so you get the time to buy in is now because it'll go up
for people. If you want to give them 75 pennies, you can, but you got to click 75 pennies.
Oh, that's
fucking
fantastic.
I will if you're going to be an asshole.
I think
that's fantastic. I'm into that. I didn't even know that existed. So now you enabled
That's the crazy thing. Yeah. See, so the crazy thing is, I didn't even know it existed. I was just on Steam, kind of like looking around, and it popped up, and it was like on sale, and I was like, "This looks fun."
To be fair, of all the digital storefronts, Steam is the most dangerous for that.
It is. It really is, man. Like, godly, I can't do it anymore. But yeah, so I'll try to tackle some of that.
I'm gonna look into that now.
Now from what you guys know of this, because I'm now interested in the supermarket simulator as well.
Hold up. All right, in the next 2 hours or supermarket
before we move on, let me.
Circle
now,
back.
Is it a simulator where like you're literally just like, is there like other shit going on, or are you literally just trying to make a business work that happens to be a super? The reason I ask is there was a pretty fun game that I dabbled in a little bit that came out. It was on I think it's on Game Pass now still, called Let's Build a Zoo.
Okay,
where it's sort of set up like it's a simulator where you're like building a zoo, but also you can do stuff like, to earn extra money, you can get paid by the mafia to have them feed dead bodies to the animals.
See,
so like you could do like other extra kind of stuff. Like you could play just a straight I'm running a zoo, or you could do this. So do you know if supermarket?
From what I've seen, this is straight up just like you have a little shop first, and you have like a till and like one shelf, and you have to order the products and level your store up so you can order more products to get a fridge, and then you can buy the storage room, and you have to take the boxes out to the garbage and put shit everywhere and help bring people out.
It's just my second job I'm not getting paid for, but I just want to fucking do it. You know? Not in real life.
It's just that kind of like a cycle kind of a thing.
Yeah. In real life, Matt treats those people like shit.
Yeah. Fuck you.
He's like, you're all beneath me. Listen here, market wench. You're useless to me.
Yeah, instead of making $8.50 an hour, I'm just going to do it for free on my own fucking free time. That's just how it does, you know? That's gaming logic right there. Yeah. 101.
Yeah, it's called Let's Build a Zoo, Kyle.
Now I got two games to check out. I want to do the mafia thing in that. So
I say if you have Game Pass, it's just on there. Yeah. If you just want to give it a shot and try it,
I'm gonna give it a shot now.
But we can go ahead. We can kick it over to news. I feel like we mentioned this last week, but I'll mention it again because it was in the top. I don't know if maybe I didn't erase it from this.
We talked about it, but not the second part of it.
Not the second part of it. Okay. So they had said, like, I think the last time we recorded that the Switch 2 is reportedly delayed till 2025, which again, we talked about, like, how is it a delay when there's no date. Yeah.
Nintendo hasn't officially said it exists yet.
But the reason here makes sense, which is to combat scalping, even though it's still going to happen.
Let me tell you a secret. It won't combat any kind of scalping at all.
It's still going to happen.
It's going to be
it didn't last very long, but like when the Switch came out, like it was hard to get one for a couple months. You know, it was in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't PS5. No, it wasn't that bad, but it still took a bit.
Nintendo, like I've worked through like the Wii launch, the Wii U launch, the Switch launch. Like typically, Nintendo stuff is bad for about 3 months, and then all of a sudden, and they typically like with the Wii, the thing that was bad was they could get consoles, but they couldn't get extra remotes.
Yeah,
like single remotes by themselves was an ongoing problem for like over a year. To the point where it was easier for us to get copies of Wii Play and just make people buy that and be like, look, you'll get a really bad game with it, but at least you'll get a remote.
Yeah. So most people I remember that. I was working at Target when that happened. It was the same kind of thing there. It was very similar.
Could never get single remotes, and nunchucks, forget about it.
Wasn't part of that the whole Wii condom thing, though?
No, I mean that was something I think people blew out of proportion because 20 people across the country broke their TVs because they were idiots.
Because they were bowling.
Yeah, but or like smashing overhead lights and stuff. But no, it literally was. I remember because they came in those awful packages where they were like big squares. It was all plastic clamshell and with just a remote in the middle. And I think at launch we got 20 Wiis and 2 extra remotes. So we just called the first 2 people. We're like, do you want it? Yes or no? And we rolled down the line. And then it was just never got him again. And that was why it was just, I need an extra controller. Here's Wii Play. Well, I just need a controller. I understand. Here's Wii Play. You're buying this.
We all do.
Sorry. Yes, we all do.
But I mean, again,
it's not going to combat scalping in any form.
No.
It's for them to think that it's not going to sell out within the first hour is kind of ridiculous just based on things, because we know what Nintendo fanboy people are like they are rabid for this stuff. But yeah, and then they'll be, I assume it's going to be $300 just because that's Nintendo, that's what they do, but they're going to be online for $800
do you think we're inching closer to hearing about what it is? Like the reveal,
if it's next year, not for another 6 months,
not till maybe summer.
Yeah. I was gonna say with the Switch, they didn't officially announce it until November.
It was 4 months.
December.
Yeah, it was literally here's the presentation.
It was a March release, and it was end of the year before.
Yeah,
2016.
It was just randomly one day. It was here it is,
and they're like, we're going to talk about it, and then they were showing them and I was like, I don't know, and then they showed them clicking the things off and picking it up and flipping it around. I'm like, oh shit! and then
I want friends on a rooftop.
Hell yeah,
that's what I want.
Kickstand on it. That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's how I want to play Mario Kart. Is on a little kickstand. Did I ever tell you I went to the Nintendo preview event for that thing?
Yeah,
and they had little demos of all the major stuff set up, and the way that they showed you Mario Kart was they had you sit in a fake plane in 2 seats next to each other on a tray table with a thing kicked up on it, and that was how they showed you Mario Kart. So my buddy and I were like, this is the dumbest fucking thing in the world, but Mario Kart's pretty good. But it's just they literally had half a plane cut out and you sat in this little stupid little plane.
It reminds me, one of these days I should sit down and go through all those courses that they put out for Mario Kart.
All the new ones?
I have them all, and I've never tried them. So
it's
I should try them.
At this point, since you've never played any of them, it's a whole new fucking game.
It is.
Yeah.
What was there
48?
It's
I think it's 48 total.
Yeah. With all these new characters. I mean, you have an entire new game to play.
Yeah.
That's Mario Kart 9 is built into 8.
Maybe they do the Windows thing. They just skip to 10.
Mario Kart X.
There is no 9. There is no 9. Obviously, we've been talking about it a lot in the last couple of weeks on the podcast, but now big layoffs have hit PlayStation. They cut about 900 employees and completely closed down the London studio. The only thing I remember and I don't know what the London studio's done recently.
Mostly VR stuff.
I remember they were the people that did The Getaway back in the day.
Oof.
So that's a deep cut.
That was always one of those series where I was kind of surprised it never came back. I know that it wasn't
second one, right?
There was two of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they were never that popular for being PS2 games, but I was always kind of surprised that, especially when GTA 5 went crazy.
Yeah.
You would think maybe we could make another one of these games, and it could have been the same kind of Mafia 3 type thing.
For sure.
Just a new one. But
absolutely.
I mean, to close the VR studio, not surprising.
No.
Considering they're already in the midst
we talked about
of
what
giving up on that.
What they're doing with the VR, they're making it compatible on PC.
That is the dumbest. I get why, and it's probably easy to do, but you can't tell me that's going to sell PS. Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Had it right there.
That had real quick segue, flashback to Getaway. It had one of the craziest stand-ups we ever got for a thing. It was giant. It was a giant rectangle thing with a backdrop in it. So you could actually go inside it, underneath it, and there was a window in the front, and then it would look like you were in the game. It was cool. Think about that was 20 years ago. But
only thing I remember about that game was instead of having an arrow where it would point you, you'd have to watch the turn
blinker.
signals.
Yeah, your blinker.
Yeah, the blinkers. Yeah,
it's very Mafia 1 in terms of game direction.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to kind of show you.
I don't think there was a gas mechanic.
And you have to play. No, there wasn't. You have to play within like the rules.
Yeah.
But yeah, the VR, like making it PC who cares?
That just seems
There's
like
better PC VRs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cheaper that are wireless. This is $550.
PS5, yeah. I've never seen someone, and I've been to many stores. I've never seen someone buy one. I've never seen, like, from the couple Walmarts and stuff that I go to, like, I've never seen one missing from the shelves. Like, it's always there. And I know that it's the same ones because they're pretty dusty now.
Yeah,
it's just behind the glass. So, like, I know it's the same ones.
I think it's just one of those things where, like, they tried it with the PS4 with the VR, and it was pretty cool for what it was.
Yeah,
but that died within like a year too. Like, I just don't think they learned their lesson with like how to make a proper VR system. If that had been like PC compatible when it came out, and it was wireless. Then maybe,
that's the key. And that's the key. And that's why I've never bought into it, is because the wire. I remember the PS4 one has the breakout box that has like 4 different
It's complicated.
cables.
It's fucked up.
No.
Like, I hated that
it's
thing.
like someone who has 5 cats. No, that's not a good idea. So, yeah. And more layoffs in the industry suck.
Well, like everybody got particularly hit. Like Insomniac got hit.
Yeah. It's been
and that's a company that just sold 10 million copies of Spider-Man.
Yeah, but remember that from the leak, then wasn't that like what the profit they make off
it's
that
almost
pretty
nothing.
low in comparison to the cut that Marvel takes.
Marvel takes
because what? Like they had to make like 300 million or something like that to even, or that's how much it cost to make.
Yeah,
or that's what they had. That's what they paid Marvel. Like Marvel got like 200 and some million, and then
their numbers were crazy for most of the stuff that was like the one we talked about before was like Sunset Overdrive made like $300 total.
Oh yeah, it was
wow.
It was almost 1 for 1.
Yeah, like wow. That is incredibly close. That's like 4 copies of that game. Where they didn't profit.
I didn't put it in here, but like on the flip side of all these layoffs, it was nice to see. It was Capcom is actually doing the opposite, where they're giving all their employees like a pretty big like bonus and raise because they've been so profitable in the last couple of years. But you think about what just came out. I mean, we just had Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they've been very successful. So, but yeah, it's been a bad year so far for the games industry in terms of layoffs.
First week or it's like the second week of March, and like thousands of jobs have just disappeared.
Yeah. I know I'm not the first person to have this kind of conversation by any means, but like the bottom's got to fall out eventually, because like. If there's all the, the last 2-3 years, there's been so many just banger games that have sold a lot. Like when Hogwarts Legacy can sell 20 million or whatever it did,
be the number one game of the year. Yeah,
and then that company's like, "Hey, we have to only do live service games now because we can't make money." Like what crazy. Is happening in the business? Like eventually, it's got to fall. I love these huge games, but like. I could go for some more Jack and Daxter type stuff where it's just a fun 20. Like, does everything have to cost 400 million to make and all this stuff? Like,
it takes 7 years, and
it's not sustainable. Like, no. I don't know if it's going to stop this year by any means, but like, it can't be sustainable long term. Eventually,
well, look at like the fact that Sony doesn't have a first party release for this year. Like, like this entire year, they're not going to. That's crazy.
I mean, they're treating Final Fantasy like a first-party release, but
I mean, it is not.
They have to.
Yeah,
they have to just PR-wise. They don't have anything. They're gonna have exclusives, but they don't have anything they're working on.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what somebody needs to be working on? Tenchu.
I was gonna say,
just fucking give it to me, man. That's all I'm asking for. Jesus.
Go buy a PS2 and Tenchu. That's all you
have
get.
it. I mean, that doesn't matter.
Then why are you
still want a remake?
Now Ryan's reaching for it.
I know.
That Rise of Ronin game's coming out in a couple weeks.
There's your Tenchu.
That is not the same.
That's your Tenchu.
Don't you dare say
that's your Assassin's Creed Tenchu.
Nah. That's Ghost of Tsushima 1.5.
I forgot that was so close because the trophy list went up for that today. I was like, shit.
Like my thing about that is like it just I don't know. Maybe it's I don't care.
I can't reach it. So like I have this whole like shelf of games here, but also my computer desk is all right here, and I'm not moving my desk.
We'll take your word for it that you have Tenchu for PS2.
I'm not gonna rearrange my room for a 10-second bit. I don't think it's worth that.
Would have been better if you'd have pulled out something like Britney's Dance Beat and be like, "Is this it?"
If I do have that,
I have that. That's somewhere.
I was going to ask you, like, is there hype around Rise of Ronin? Because I feel like it's dead on that game.
I don't know. I think the videos for it look good. I think it looks like an interesting game.
Okay.
That's one of those games where I can wait for that game to be $30.
I honestly think that's going to happen. I have a feeling with that game, it's going to review really well. The people who do play it, it's going to be awesome. But most people are going to get around to it next year.
Yeah.
Or late this year. I don't know if there's like that day one hype that people are going to jump on.
The video, like I said, the videos look good. The only problem I have with some of them was it does look like an Assassin's Creed game with the way he's kind of like
I thought it was
moving around and stuff, and it kind of looks like that. And so it's going to be funny whenever that Assassin's Creed like game set in Japan comes out, and it just looks like this. And you're like, oh, okay.
Does that game have a name yet? By the way, the Assassin. It's like, is it still just codename Red or whatever?
I think there's still Red, and I think there's still Hecht, which is the like Chinese
live service
one. That's live service.
I think that one was live service, and then Red was the feudal Japan one. So.
Yeah.
This I thought was pretty cool. Remedy has taken back control of the Control series from 505 Games, so they now once again own everything Control wise.
That's good.
So they don't have to work with 505 anymore. And from the same article, apparently they are pretty deep into development of Control 2.
So well, there's that, and isn't there supposed to be like a multiplayer one too?
So originally it was a multiplayer game set in this universe, but they changed it to being a cooperative game, which is probably better.
That's even better. That's what I want. Like
at this point, I'd rather see that. So
yeah, I will. We will play that for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I love Control. I love Alan Wake 2. Then obviously more Embracer Group bullshit. They bought. I mean, the long story short, they bought too many studios. They have.
There was about a 6-month period where every other day there was a story about them buying something
nonstop. They bought everything they could.
They thought they were going to build this big empire, and then I think they realized at some point we bought too much.
I think somebody finally realized like that's not how this works.
Yeah,
like you can't just buy it all. Like when nobody makes anything.
I mean, look at the things that we've already seen that have been canceled. Like I was going to get a new Deus Ex game that got canceled because of this. But I believe they've agreed for one of the deals and the other one they're working on. So they're looking to sell Gearbox. And then they have worked to the people that are remaking Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, which I guess that's still on.
Oh my
but
God.
The developer Saber Interactive
no, I don't think so.
has escaped a $500 million deal. So... but Gearbox, and we were discussing that last podcast. I couldn't remember if Gearbox was owned by them or not, but they are. So
Gearbox,
it's surprising that that's the one, because you would think on the cusp of this Borderlands movie coming out, I feel like we'll get an announcement for new Borderlands this year. It makes sense that would be one that they would want to sell. But I guess if they're going to make money off of any of these,
that's true. If they're trying to get money back, that would be the one. That's the one that's worth the most.
So. That would be interesting.
Ryan, maybe you read it too, but I thought that Knights thing was canceled.
Or was
it the thing where they were like, it's like there's 1% chance it's going to happen at this point?
From
or something
what
weird.
I remember hearing, and I couldn't even begin to find the article or whatever, but I thought it was one of those things like no one officially came out and said, "Hey, but I think it was like, yeah, this is dead."
Or it's like, or it's put on like super pause or something like that, where they were like, everybody stop.
I think it's a popular enough game that like eventually it'll get done. I mean, if Dead Island 2 managed to come out and still be pretty decent, you know, like if it got that far, like something that people actually are excited about, I think eventually. But you know, I think it's in the world of just we're not going to talk about it and. Maybe one day we'll surprise people with it, but I think it's that.
I think you're right though. Like it is a game that if it ever did just come out again, people would just buy it because I mean, look at these Battlefront things.
Yeah, that's going to sell.
It's going to sell like crazy.
Yeah.
So it would make sense. But yeah, I feel like a couple months ago, like maybe last fall, we were talking about like that was all but dead. So
yeah. I swear it's been all but dead like 2 or 3 times too, from what I remember. Like it keeps popping up. Where it's like, where is it?
It feels like it was all but dead. Like right after they announced it, like they had like the big announcement. It was like it was during what, a PlayStation event.
It was one of their one of their events.
And then after that, there was no new news until it's dead. Like that was the timeline.
Yes,
we're doing this. It's dead now.
Speaking of games that all but dead, Dragon Age 4 is supposedly finally ready to release this year. I mean, they have to get it out this year, right? Like 10 years. It's been 10 years.
Who cares? Does anybody care anymore?
Well, again, they have to get this game out to then like full steam ahead on the next Mass Effect, which will be what, another 6 years?
Like, I reiterate, who cares anymore? Like, in a world where Baldur's Gate 3 exists, does Dragon Age 4 need to?
I don't know.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting.
That's another thing with like all these, these big budget things. Like the amount of windows that are missed. Like that game would have been cool 5 years ago. Like people, I think, would have been pumped 5 years ago. It's not a game, but like the Borderlands movie. That is like 10 years too late for like, and that movie might end up being awesome, but who gives a shit about Borderlands in that way anymore? It is like,
weird.
Like after 2 is when you should have had that movie come out.
It should have been. It should have been timed with like Borderlands 3's coming out and the movie's coming out. Cross promote it to hell.
I don't think it's easy to make a game or anything like that by any means. I'm sure there's a lot of other shit that happens, but the video game industry just has the worst timing on things that, like, it would make sense to have, like you said, Borderlands 3 tie in with the movie. That is a license to print money at that time.
Right.
Exactly.
A great example I was going to throw out is Suicide Squad. Like, your window of opportunity for that game was the 6 months between that James Gunn movie coming out to the Peacemaker show.
Yep.
That was your time to strike for that game to be somewhat successful, I think. And then it was another 2 years, and then all the stuff came out about it. Now it's obviously one of the biggest failures of the year. So, and for many, many reasons.
When did Dragon Age, the last one, come
2014.
Out? Jesus,
damn.
2014, we were playing Inquisition.
I think I played that for like an hour.
As I say every time we talk about Inquisition, all I remember about that was some guy threw a goat at my castle. That's the only scene of that entire game I remember. So I played through it.
If anyone deserves it, though, Kyle, it's you.
That only happened in your playthrough, yeah.
It was creepypasta, but like a really lame one. Someone threw a goat at my castle? Did this happen to anybody else? And then my dead girlfriend came and talked to me and said she was the goat.
Going back to the Sony closures, there's some other studios that are apparently on list for closure, including Media Molecule, who I believe their last release was that Dreams game.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes a little sense to me. I don't think Dreams lit the world on fire.
That was the company that basically they made Little Big Planet and it took off. And then they were kind of given free reign to kind of do whatever they wanted to, because Sony kind of co-opted Sackboy off of that.
It's like, well, maybe
Sackboy will be the mascot. We'll put him in a cart game. All this kind of stuff, and you guys can go do what you want. And then they came back with Dreams, which is a great tech demo.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, like
I think there is a PS5 version of it technically that they did, but
I thought didn't they shut it down, or it is shutting down?
I think it is shutting down. I don't think it's shut down yet.
So it's just
there have been some really cool things that have been made in it.
I watched like a whole thing of like people would make like other games in it, which is always whenever there's like one of these like creative games, people always just try to make Zelda and Mario and stuff in it. And sometimes they come out and you're like, holy hell, how did you make this in Dreams with a move control? You know what I mean? Like that kind
of shit. In the surprise, this should come to the surprise of no one. Skull and Bones is already $40 most places.
Well,
I've actually seen it at Walmart for $40 this past weekend, so it is not a shocker.
Does that game has microtransactions?
I believe so, yes.
I mean,
but I don't think I think it's cosmetic stuff.
Yeah, but
I don't think it's.
I like Ryan. It's Ubisoft, so yeah, it does. Yeah, you're right. That's my mistake. for not remembering that.
Yeah, that is it's astounding to me that game got released.
It's a quadruple A title, Ryan.
Yeah, what a just story of perseverance and never give up. What an inspiration. Yeah,
9
Skull and
trailers
Bones
over 7 years.
Yeah, Skull and Bones should be doing inspirational talks at schools about never giving up.
I think it's one of those situations where it got to the point where the execs or whatever looked at it like, we have to put this out because we've already spent so much money on it. Because otherwise,
all the money from the Beyond Good and Evil 2 budget, and we put it in here. We have to release it.
It sounds like the only good thing that came out of that is that weren't they allegedly going to use that and possibly remake Black Flag?
Yeah,
out of that. So I think just do that.
That's fine.
I think that's Black the game everybody wanted. Yeah. It won't even be the biggest pirate game released on PlayStation 5 this year.
Right, it's true.
Sea of Thieves is coming out. The beta soon.
They are doing a beta for that.
Yeah, I got an email about it today.
That's pretty cool. Okay.
It's right here. Pre-order my Pirate Playground. I don't like that at all.
Yeah, don't call it that. That sounds like
that's a different place you go.
Yeah, that is that much alliteration is definitely porn spam.
You're right. This is the wrong email. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. The best one I ever got was of alliteration was pound me in the puckered poo hole. That was which is very similar to that.
That also involved pirates. That took some guy 2 hours to write. He's sitting there going, "Oh man, I got it."
I'm just happy somebody with the creative writing degree got some work. That's all I'm saying.
House Flipper 2, the console version has been delayed till April 10th, so not a huge delay. I believe it was originally 2 weeks from now, March 21st.
Not far.
So not a huge delay. Definitely. I mean, I've played a good chunk of it on PC. Definitely worth it. Let's talk about, because I know I'm probably the only person here that actually watched this. Let's talk about the Xbox partner preview.
I forgot it happened until you texted me something about it.
Yeah. I watched it because I happened to have the time. Like, it lined up at the time. I was eating lunch that day, and I'm like, all right, I'll put this thing on. It was 30 minutes. The weird thing is, like, after this, I saw a lot of people saying, like, oh, it reminds me of the 360 days. I don't know. I didn't take that away from it. I would say I was disappointed because it showed new games. There were some Game Pass stuff here. There's just weird stuff that got announced. Like, this first game, just title-wise, confusing to me. But Unknown 9 Awakening doesn't look bad. But again, like, what is that title? Unknown 9. It just sounds like something, a part of some larger, like, sci-fi epic that I have never paid attention to.
Yeah, no one's going to play that because it's nothing. It's like the name, and the game might be. It would need such good word of mouth, but like that name. If I'm like, are you going to play Unknown 9 Awakening? And like that literally means nothing to nobody. Like, that's
which one of the 9 are you?
Yeah, that's the unknown
people.
One.
I'm the unknown one. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, other stuff that they showed here, I won't go over too far. They showed a total, I want to say, of like either 12 or 15 games, somewhere around there. Good chunk of them are Game Pass. Like, this Unknown 9 game will be out on Game Pass. This what is it? The Altars. That looked kind of interesting. It kind of reminded me of Returnal. That's what it kind of reminded me of, that type of game. That was another Game Pass one. There's some indie stuff here. The weirdest one for me, and I guess I should have realized this was what it was, but I'm not a big Roblox person. But they're putting Chucky into Roblox. Is that something we should be doing for the kids?
I don't know.
Kids play. Right?
Is it though? Like, because I've let's say dabbled in Roblox just to kind of see, because my son talks about it all the time.
Okay.
Like, I want to play Roblox. I'm like, all right, it's on PlayStation now. Let's check it out. I messed around in there for like 15 minutes. And I went, this place is unholy. Like, this is not a place anyone should ever go. So maybe Chucky does belong.
Maybe Chucky. Okay.
Like, all of the games in there created for kids are all just horror-based garbage. Like, it's weird.
He told them, like, maybe you should just go back to Minecraft.
There's one where it's like, you're in this house and the slasher is coming to get you, and you go to bed and you wake up and somebody's dead, and it's like, what? Who is this for? I don't understand that.
This is for your, yeah. I don't
it is
think this
for my 8-year-old nephew.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it's for my cousin's kids who are like 10 or 11, and that's all they ever talk about is Roblox. I told my 5-year-old, I keep telling him, yeah, Roblox doesn't work on PlayStation. It's weird. Just to get him to leave me alone. He's like, Dad, when they fix Roblox and I play it, I'm like, of course. When they fix it, absolutely.
See, I'm learning stuff. My son's only 10 months old, so he hasn't asked me for things yet. But just got to start those lies early. Nice.
You will come to realize that children, and like some more than others for sure, but like they tend to have a memory like a steel trap. Like things do not leave. And if it is something that happened 6 months ago, they will ask you about it again. And
remember when you said we could have ice cream?
Yeah. Remember that time 3 years ago? It's like you were 2. I don't remember that. How the hell do you remember that?
You know what's crazy is my son can't remember to brush his teeth every morning.
Well, that's a different kind of memory. It's not Roblox.
No, but this motherfucker can remember, and every 2 weeks he gets $25 to go to the grocery store and buy whatever snacks he wants for the week.
There you go.
Like clockwork. Homeboy is like, "Hey, Dad, it's 2 weeks.
One's a reward, one's a
there with his hand out.
Yeah,
man, you can't even brush your teeth in them. Like, no."
I'll go over some of these other ones briefly. I think that some of the bigger things here, the long-awaited sequel to The Sinking City. I had forgotten that they were making a sequel to that. And it was kind of trapped in this like, it's on sale right now on the Xbox store.
It's on the PlayStation store too. And it's the guys who make those Sherlock Holmes games that I play. They make that too.
Oh, okay.
They did announce the full release of Final Fantasy 14 for Xbox here is March 21st. So, that's a lot of stuff coming out that day. The biggest thing, this was leaked before, and weird enough, this is not on Game Pass, which I thought is weird, but they put the classic Stalker series out on Xbox to get people ready for Stalker 2. So it's the original game and then the 2 expansions that came out, but it's not on Game Pass.
No,
so
it's
you
on
can either
PlayStation too. You can
it's on PlayStation as well.
Yeah.
So you can either buy each of them separately for $20, or you can buy all 3 in a combo pack for $40, which
it feels like a lot for old ass game. Like
it does.
I
agree.
I know not everyone has access to it, but I think I bought them for GOG. For like a total of like $487 or something like that on sales.
Yeah,
you know, like. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if people buy them and are excited, like, who am I to say that 40 is too expensive? Like, the market will decide. It felt a little high to me when I first heard it.
It's also, isn't that studio's like based in Ukraine, I think, right?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that
was the big,
and I think a lot of that is like it's going to help them towards finishing Stalker 2. So it's a good thing for them to like release this and try to get.
Remember, Stalker 2 has a release date of September 5th.
Yeah, it's coming.
So, that game continues to look really good. I've never played the original, so I have it on PC, but I've never played it.
Now you can buy it again.
It always to me looked like maybe a better Metro, but I've played, as somebody who's played all the Metros, I just can never get into them. But I forced myself.
I didn't really care too much for Metro either.
I thought this was interesting because Game Pass usually, like, notoriously doesn't get DLC for games.
Yes.
The only one that I can remember specifically was Gears 5. They put that Hive Busters in there as well. But Persona 3 is getting, like, that cut DLC that was put in later. So they're putting that in. Whatever the cut content from the original game, they're putting that in, and then there's some other like costumes and stuff, but that's going to be for Game Pass subscribers.
That is a cool. Weird thing for them to get as a
really
DLC
weird.
For Game Pass, like Persona.
Really weird.
Wow.
I can't remember if we saw this game at another Xbox event or a Sony event, but that first Berserker game. I don't know if you saw the footage for that here, but it was like it looked very rough, like frame rate wise, like. It needs some work. So I noticed, but like it does look like a cool game. That one game we talked about this I think at the Game Awards. Remember they brought out the guy from that sci-fi show I like that got canceled. He was wearing like a cape or something. Remember, you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Tales of Kenzera Zhao. They talked more about that here. That game does look cool. It's like a Metroidvania style game. That'll be out April 23rd. Frostpunk 2. I've never played the original Frostpunk, but that game seems pretty cool. Frostpunk 2 is coming to Game Pass July 25th. And then that weird Capcom game that is confirmed for Game Pass, which like
I remember it. Yeah, I remember seeing that at the thing before. Wasn't that the one where I was like, it looks like a weird Asura's Wrath? Like
it looks like a weird Asura's Wrath. Yeah, no, I agree with you. That is supposed to be later this year, but that is on Game Pass, which is interesting. And it's made with the re-engine. So once again, that re-engine still paying off for them.
Yeah.
Smartest move I think Capcom's made in years was to take a break and make that engine.
Yes.
So, but yeah, that was pretty much that event. Like it was a lot of smaller stuff, third party stuff. I don't know. I wasn't like blown away by it like some people apparently were after it, but it just cool stuff to I guess look forward to. Game Pass stuff specifically. So, There was like a brief period, I want to say yesterday, maybe it was Wednesday, where they had come out and said the Final Fantasy Remake Trilogy was going to be exclusive.
I think it was a mess. Yeah.
And then now it is not again.
Well, it's because some guy wrote an article about Rebirth, and he brought up the fact that like it's only on PlayStation and the last one's only on PlayStation. And I think he took it upon himself to say that like the next one is PlayStation exclusive as well, even though obviously let's be honest, it probably is. But
it probably is.
It doesn't even have a name or anything like that. Technically Square doesn't even like it doesn't exist yet. Like we all know it does.
Yeah.
But it does. But then it became I kind of insinuated that, so we rolled it back. But the thing is I think it's what we talked about where do these games show up on Xbox at some point? Probably, but I think it's not until the whole thing is done.
I think at this point that's probably the plan.
Right? At that point when you just wait until it's all done, you can have the most current version of what it is. Yeah. And then that way too, technically, if it's all packaged as one thing later, then it's a different game. And the other three were exclusive to PlayStation.
Like 200 plus hour RPG.
On 12 discs.
There you go.
For Xbox.
That is my guess when it goes to Xbox. Yeah. When it's whatever that package.
There will be an ultimate collection.
The complete edition.
Yeah. With 1 hour of bonus features or something. It's a good thing you waited 12 years. But did you see that the Baldur's Gate 3 is 4 discs for Xbox because it's 500 megs over the limit? Like that's crazy. Yeah. And they're like,
they didn't want to cut.
We're not going to cut anything. So too bad it's 4 discs. Like, okay, that's I love it because I think multi-disc games now is hilarious to me. But
I'm excited. My wife got that for me for Christmas, like the pre-order for that. Mm-hmm. I'm excited for my 4 discs.
Yeah,
and my,
that's so great
package of things and
500 megs. That's so funny. Yeah. That's nothing.
I threw this in here just because I thought it was cool that there's a new RPG maker coming out for PS4, PS5 next year. I was actually looking at the article to see if I could figure out what the acronym stands for, but it is not in the article. So it is simply called RPG Maker with. Like WITH.
Stupid name.
But there's no, literally, they don't explain in here what the acronym means, so I don't know what that stands for.
It might mean something within like the context, because those games are weird where they have like
they are.
They're like a game in there, but then you make your own stuff. It's funny you brought it up because I told you I was literally looking at a box the other day and I happened to open it. That was the game that was on top, was the original one for PS4.
Yeah, and that's what I told you. So like, that's one I'm actually going to look for when we go to the convention, because I had a friend in high school, like early, like freshman year.
Quit bragging.
Who had made like part of a game in that, all with controller. Think about that. Like didn't even use the keyboard and mouse, which like that's nuts.
I told you I used to play the Fighter Maker games. Just making one character in that was probably 25 to 30 hours.
Is that that's where you gave up after you made that first character?
I mean, one character that functioned somewhat okay, and I was like, okay, I think I'm out. I can't do this. I will say this RPG Maker thing, I am ecstatic to figure out what the trophies for this thing are.
It'll be interesting.
I can't wait. I hope one of them was like, make a 100+ hour RPG and then play through it. Like, oh my God.
You just, at that point, couldn't you just like make a character that has to run through a circle and like a corridor
mechanic in the game? Yeah. You get to the end, it's as it did at the beginning. Sorry.
I hope they do bullshit, but like in real life, kind of like the Forza games do, where you have to like earn credits through your designs.
Oh,
But it'll be like make $100,000 on Steam.
Oh God! Can you imagine?
Can
you imagine if there's like an upload system for this, and it's like have 10,000 people play your RPG, and then you got to go on to like some forum somewhere, and everybody has to start begging each other. Please play my game, please. But it's gonna be the kind of thing where it's like have 10,000 people play it, but it only sells 4,000 copies.
Have you ever run across, like, looking on the PlayStation Store, the company called Chemco?
I assume so.
They every month there's a new
Chemco game.
16-bit RPG.
I'm pretty sure those games are made with some sort of version of RPG Maker.
I want to say I read an article about that once, where there is like a thing where there's basically just a program that can pump this.
I played like one of those, and it was fine. Like, it was.
I think I've played. So I do achievement hunting on the Xbox side, and they're pretty cozy and easy for what they are. I think I finished 3 or 4 of them.
Okay,
and I own like 20 of them. And before I gave, because they're always. I mean, you can always find a couple of months sale every week.
I should go. I'll go look.
You should look.
The best one so far is Bond of the Skies. That one's actually fairly decent.
Okay,
I can show you my PS4 limited run games version of it if you'd like.
Cool. Are those what those are? Okay.
Yeah, a lot of those.
Yeah.
Oh, this one right here.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Now I know exactly what those games are.
That type of stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those are pretty. Yeah, I'd have to look and see which one.
Because it seems like every month, like limited run always adds like 2 or 3 random RPGs you've never heard of. Like, okay.
Yeah, they're usually the Chemco.
They're perfectly harmed. Like they're like none of them are challenging Chrono Trigger for the greatest RPG of all time. But like if you just want to spend 10 hours and you have the itch for an RPG, but you don't want to think about it, they're pretty cozy. The music's usually pretty decent. They're fine.
The final news article I have here: Rooster Teeth is shutting down. After 20-ish years?
A little over 20. They just the funny part, but like they just rebranded like the whole thing.
I saw that. Yeah, like maybe like 2 months ago.
New slogan, new logo, all this kind of stuff. The only thing is like as someone who, was there for like season 1 of Red versus Blue as it was getting put up, my buddies and I would watch it. It like has gone in and out of them over the years. Like I gotta say, it's kind of crazy they were still around. Because type of content
has shifted to so much just to YouTube.
It doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. And it's all YouTube. And like the thing I latched onto the most with them was like Achievement Hunter and the Let's Play stuff. Mm-hmm. But then they killed that like last year or the year before, and then tried to bring Let's Play back, but most of the people left. So it's all a bunch of people I don't know or care about anymore. And it's changed corporate ownership like 3 or 4 times in the past couple of years to the point where
it's kind of like Giant Bomb.
It finally got owned by exactly. It finally got owned by everybody's favorite David at Warner Brothers. Somebody slapped a memo on his desk and said potential tax write-off, and he said kill it.
Yeah, so no, that's exactly probably what happened.
Then they're trying to sell off like Red versus Blue and Ruby, like the 2 things I think that still have value to them.
Yeah.
But it pretty much like everybody's gone and it's over.
I didn't realize that Ruby thing was done by them until this article came out. Like I never paid that much attention to that.
One of the most popular American made animes ever. Like to the point where like Japan embraced it kind of a thing.
That's wild.
I mean it's a weird thing to see them go, but I talked to some people about it last week and a lot of them said I didn't even know they were still here. So I mean,
I never want people to lose their jobs or anything like that. But like, I was legitimately shocked that I thought it just was gone.
Right.
I thought it was just like had already been gone. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's just not what it was. Like everything spun off, and all the main people, like the founders were either gone or like tangentially connected to it at best. Still.
Well, and I also think too, and if you guys have examples of that aren't this, please let me know. But I think a lot of this, like the I know it wasn't all YouTube, but like that style of like internet video game content, most of those haven't shown to have the legs to be like to keep going for. I mean, I know there's stuff that still exists, like Angry Video Game Nerd still exists, but I don't think anyone thinks the new episodes are good compared to the old one. Like right. I think a lot of this stuff it's hard to, because the generation that's excited about it is not 14 anymore. Like they right. grow up and they move to their new thing, and then that's just what it is.
Well, it's happening at a time where like a lot of YouTube content is changing too. Like I was never a fan of it, but like the game theory guy, he's out. He's just done.
Yeah, he's done. Yep.
And he said, he's going to pass it off to other people, but like he's out.
Yeah. And I mean, he was the personality behind it. Like, I don't want anything to shut down. But right. I think if he's not there, he's not the game theory guy.
Right.
I know technically behind the scenes, there's other people that do this and this and this and this and this, but Matt Pat's the guy. Like, right. That's what the show is.
So yeah, I think, like you said, a lot of it's just catching up where I watched Red versus Blue 20 years ago, but I couldn't tell you if I watched anything past the sixth season.
Okay, you watched more of it than I did.
I watched up until the point where it wasn't in, when they changed over, like they started putting it in Reach or something.
Okay,
and like all the, so obviously it looks different and everything. And at that point, it was like, I think I'm done. Like I just, it's enough.
I was always a bigger RB and the Chief fan.
Wow.
So
that was Machinima, man. Like what a weird time of content for that.
That is a weird era.
Remember when that thing Machinima blew up? They were signing like everybody they could, making everything, and then it was just kind of like it turned out it was a shitty place to work. And shocker. And
a lot of those internet places
disappeared. Yeah, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
You missed one other news thing I wanted to bring up just because I thought it was funny because it happens all the time. But Nintendo killed that Switch emulator.
Oh yeah.
Poor user.
Surprising no one that Switch emulator was nuked from existence.
Yeah.
I get why people do it, and like they make these emulators and stuff just to prove and give it to the masses. But like if it's Nintendo, you're done for, dude. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah. I think what happened with, and I haven't done the full scope of everything that happened. I think their biggest problem was behind. They were making money off it with the Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I guess there was some things that got leaked of them telling people how to get Tears of the Kingdom to work.
Tears was like the big killer
in Discord. Because like, if you're crafty about it, like making an emulator itself is not illegal. Like there's precedent where that's not. But Nintendo, if you do that, and plus Nintendo just has such deep pockets, most of these people do this, for free, more or less. And so, like, they're just going to outspend you where you settle or whatever. Anyway, even if you might technically win down the road, you can't afford to do that.
But yeah, I think the Tears thing was a big thing because Nintendo, I think their main argument was a million copies of that were downloaded or something, which to me seems high because
for an emulator,
emulator of a game before it's released seems a little high. But if they're making money off of it in some way, that's step number one, big no-no, because Nintendo they'll take that money from you and they'll take any potential future earnings from you. And like, they'll take everything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the emulator guy, the ROM guy Bowser that they crushed into oblivion.
Yeah.
Like he's jail and he owes him like millions of dollars. It's like, oh my God.
That's Nintendo.
Yep.
We can kick over because I think it seems like we've all been watching some movies.
Yeah.
I've probably seen more than anybody else here this past 2 weeks, which is unusual, but and both of you watched something that I have not watched, so I'm interested to hear about it.
I was like, I'm just going to do it, but we'll talk about that when we get to it.
Okay, I'm interested to hear about it. The first thing I have here is I went and saw Dune Part 2. I will just straight up tell you Dune Part 2 is an 8 out of 10. The biggest shocker of that movie is you should probably know going into it that it is not the end of that story. It is accurate to the book, but the book also, the story doesn't end with that book. There are 5 more books.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so that movie very much ends with like, hey, we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish here, but this bigger thing's starting. And it kind of ends. And like, I had forgotten that because I have not read the book in 20 years. And that movie ended. I kind of looked at my friend Ross and was just like, I guess we're getting a third Dune.
I guess we're getting some more.
And they did come out after that weekend, and and they were like, yeah, we're going to make a third one probably. So, because it did very well. But I've also seen like people going just fucking nuts over this movie, and like I thought it was good, but I don't think it was that good. So, masterpiece level.
As someone who doesn't watch new movies very often, if I hear discords about it, I assume it's doing really well. And I've heard a shit ton of Dune 2 stuff.
Yeah.
Like out of nowhere. I didn't know that they were making a new my brain just isn't in that space to know that. And I've heard a lot about it from a lot of different people unrelated to each other. So I guess it's pretty decent.
Yeah, like it's. I'm not going to say it's bad or anything like that. The first 30 minutes of it are a slog, though. Like it's really slow moving, and then it picks up and it gets to where you want it to be. The best part of the entire movie is the dude that played Elvis in that most recent Elvis movie, Austin Butler. He is a fantastic villain in this movie. Like just every fucking scene that dude is in is amazing. They go to the planet that dude's from for this like big gladiator battle. It's all shot in like black and white. He's very creepy. He has a very very villain like persona about him in this movie. You can tell like that dude had a ton of fun playing that character. So that is probably my favorite part of it was his character. And it very, very true to the book. They did change a couple things slightly from the book. I had to look it up after because again, it's been 20 years since I read that book. I read it in high school, but for the most part, it is very, very faithful to that original book. So, but yeah, for me, it was an 8 out of 10. I watched, and I know this is a movie that neither of you, probably not any of you have watched or maybe even heard of. I've been sitting on it for months, but BlackBerry.
I've heard of it. Yes.
Okay. The story of how the BlackBerry phone came to be.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I did not know anything about this story at all. I remember when the movie came out, I saw who was in it because it's the guy that plays Dennis from It's Always Sunny.
Yes.
And it said Jay Baruchel guy. And I looked at him like, but first thing was like, is this a parody movie? It's not a parody movie. And then I was like, well, maybe. And then the reviews for it were pretty good. And then I just kind of forgot about it. I turned it on randomly the other day. It is very, very well done and very enjoyable. And there's a lot to the story of the BlackBerry I did not know. How it came to be, how it really kind of paved the way for the iPhone. Obviously, the iPhone came out and fucking just murdered BlackBerry from existence and nuked it, but there's a lot of ins and outs with that story, the technology around it, what they did to kind of harness the internet to work on that phone. It's very, very interesting. It's very well done. There's a lot of humor in it. Very highly recommend. I'd also give that an 8 out of 10. And then finally, I watched.
Just before you go to the next one, I feel, and maybe I'm losing my mind, I feel that like that genre of, hey, here's how this thing happened.
Yeah,
movie is like that's become really huge over the last 3 to 5 years. I don't remember ever really seeing movies like that, and now I can know about how Facebook was made. I can know about how McDonald's was made, how Tetris was made. Like there's so many of those type of movies that just like seem to be getting fired out.
Remember the movie where you learned about how they made automated windshield wipers. That was a movie. Like, yeah, I can't. What you're
the movie about how the first movie was made is gonna be really meta.
It is funny that we moved down that list from those things to the BlackBerry, but of all things,
of all things, like now it's like a race to see what license people can get.
How the car phone was made.
But yeah, it is surprisingly a very good movie. So. Then I finally did it because the Oscars this weekend. I wanted to sit down and watch the 3-hour epic that is Oppenheimer. I loved Oppenheimer. So I give it a 9 out of 10. I love the second half of it.
Yeah, I love the
second half of it more than the first half of it, and I love the end of it. So specifically, I do think now that I've seen, because I want there was the one Oscar like nominated movie I really wanted to see before I watched the Oscars, because I watched last year was the only year I've never watched the Oscars, and that was the year that big shit went down. So now this year it'll be calm, but I want to. I always want to see as much of that stuff as I do before I watch the Oscars. This was kind of the one big one that I just hadn't seen yet. So, I do think he. What's his name? Played
Cillian
Scarecrow.
Murphy. Yeah,
Cillian Murphy. I think he's definitely should win, and I think Rob Downey Jr. is tremendous in this as well. So plays a. I mean, I that's the other thing. I did not know, like, obviously, you know, growing up, we learn about Oppenheimer and then he made the bomb, but I didn't know the ins and outs of this man's life. And I did not know the stuff after he made the bomb, everything going on with communism, because they touch all on that's the second half of this movie. And it's very interesting to see what happens with him, because that's not that part of his story I wasn't very familiar with. So.
See, and it's another one of those stories, the history of how the bomb was.
Oh, they made the bomb.
That's all they're making now.
That's all they're making. So, but I loved it. So I really enjoyed it. And I've been sitting on that 4K Blu. I went out and bought that.
Wow.
And I'd sat
Physical
on it for
media
a
in
month.
2024.
So, physical media, yeah. But how about you, Dan?
Okay.
I want to hear your take on that movie.
From one bomb to another. Matt and I both watched Anyone But You, and I can't even tell you why I decided to do this, but I was like, let's just see. So this is the Sydney Sweeney like rom-com from last year.
Yeah,
it's terrible. It's
okay.
It's one of the most like cliche pieces of anything you could ever watch. You can predict the entire movie within the first 5 minutes. The acting is bad. The story is bad. It's like it was written by ChatGPT. The prompt
text me that
was literally like Sydney Sweeney rom-com Australia, and then they just hit enter and this thing pumped out a 2-hour movie. And it's just awful. Like it tries really hard for that like cringe humor type factor, but it doesn't hit because it is just it's just cringe. Like it's not funny in any sense. It's an excuse to, you know, you and I, we joke a lot about like how Adam Sandler movies are just like he wants to take a vacation to X and that's where they shoot a movie. This was an excuse to put Sydney in Sydney. Get it? It's funny because her name is Sydney. It's funny. Okay. You
get it?
Yeah. I don't think she's an overly like bad actress. I will give her a pass considering what she has to work with is not good.
I've seen Euphoria. Like she's good in that, but that's completely different.
The source material is just no one could have done a good job here. Like no one. And the other problem I have with this movie is it nails every trope. Like everyone in this movie is far too attractive. Like they just are. Every single person. They make constant jokes about like how the main guy he looks like he's like 40. But then it keeps going like, I'm 29. And they're like, no one's 29. Ha ha ha. But so they play off the obvious like age difference between them, which is the more they point it out, the worse it gets.
What is her age in the movie?
She's got to be like mid 20s at most because she's like in law school.
Well, in real life, she's like, what, 26, 27, something like that? I think
so.
Yeah. Something like that. But like, it's just like, they play off like the age different thing as a joke. It has the quirky best friend who is somehow good at everything he does. So that way he can be inserted into every scene in the movie in a different role that he needs to fulfill. So like he is the DJ at the like rehearsal dinner, but then he's also like attuned to nature and koalas. But then like, is he the Matt, is he the guy who gets him married? Is that him too?
Yeah, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
yes.
it's just like he does everything, and he's just there all the time. He shows up, he rides a cool motorcycle, but he has no other purpose to exist other than he is this man's friend.
Yeah,
like if this man didn't exist, this guy would fade away into dust because that's the only purpose he has.
Awesome.
You know, they write into it that like the awkward way that they come back together after a bad date is because her sister is marrying his friend, but you wouldn't have known that they were getting together because they're different races. But how could that be? Oh, it's because her stepdad in Australia is white. And it's just like, it's a stretch to make this all work where like they could possibly run into each other. Supposedly,
like supposedly
it's based off of Shakespeare's like Much Ado About Nothing. I don't remember much of that because that was high school type stuff. But if it is Shakespeare rose from his grave and then killed himself because of what they did to it.
I was going to say, is this the Chad GPG version?
Yeah, it's a Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing, but it's Sydney Sweeney. And, have her get naked for like 4 seconds, but like a side shot. So it's tasteful.
Much Ado About Side Boob.
Yeah, it's just like, it is ridiculous. Like there's a sex scene basically forced into the movie. And even though it's only like 30 seconds, I would argue it's too long.
Is it a like?
I mean, that's all I need.
Yeah.
Is it a PG-13 movie where they just threw that in, or is it a very hard R-rated?
It has to be hard, right?
No, I mean like
there's male frontal nudity. It has to be.
I was gonna say, but if you took those scenes out, would you feel like it's a PG-13 comedy where they just forced that in?
I would feel it's PG-13 if those two things were eliminated.
Okay.
Because the male frontal nudity is just to make a joke. That's all it's to do. And then for her, it's just because they know their audience and they know that if the men are going to see this, they're going to want to see her naked from the side for 5 seconds. It's just.
And where is this movie showing?
It's on demand now.
Yeah. Streaming. Just wait to buy a physical copy.
There you go.
It's just, I mean, I don't know what compelled me to watch it, but I was like, I guess I'll see. And it's awful. It's really bad. I think
you're on the same page, Matt.
I think maybe it was just because I had just seen her in Madame Web, and I'm like, let's see if she actually is an actress given a chance to do something. And
so what you're telling me is that movie she has coming out in a couple weeks, the horror one is her shot.
That's a chance because it's a different
Immaculate.
Movie. It's a different movie.
I would actually like to see that. But that's a horror movie. So
it doesn't have to be a joke.
No, it doesn't.
But I don't know, Matt. Do you agree at all, or am I way off base here?
So I think honestly, if you're going into a rom-com movie and you're not looking at it like it's about to be,
Shakespeare, which is supposed to be.
I mean, so thinking about it, every rom-com I've ever seen, it's the same. Like you can pretty much basically tell the story within the first 5-10 minutes. Do I feel the same way? Yeah, a little, because like you said, everybody's too pretty in this movie. Like it's really weird because even the parents are pretty, and it's just kind of one of those things where you're like, how did everybody just get picked?
I want to say that they also make an in joke in the like a meta joke about how everyone's too attractive at some point.
Yeah. Honestly, if you like rom-coms, you'll watch it. You might find bits of entertainment in it, like jokes.
You won't remember it in 2 months.
You really won't.
Yeah.
I already forget what we're talking about.
There you go. Problem solved.
He's looking up that nude scene on the internet.
I'm looking up Sydney Sideboob, I think her name was.
2 million results.
There you go. But yeah, I know I started, like I watched it because my sister-in-law was skimming through movies and she was like, hey, this looked pretty interesting. This is Sydney Sweeney. And I was like, yeah, just put it on. It's cool, whatever. And yeah. I mean, it's a rom-com. If you're going in thinking it's about to be a masterpiece, you're wrong. So, it was okay. It was definitely not something I'm going to be like, in next week, I'm going to be like, I want to watch that movie again. I mean, it's really not anything to speak home about. I will say that. But I did watch something that just dropped yesterday on Prime. Good old Ricky Stenicki
was John Cena.
Yeah, John Cena.
And my buddy Andrew Santino.
Yes, he's in it too.
Yeah. So I actually started comedy with Santino back in like 2006, around that time.
Oh wow, that's cool.
He's a big Cubs fan. That's what we still talk about.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Because he's from Chicago. So
yeah.
So it's a raunchy comedy. I mean, that's really all I can really say about that. It's got moments of funniness to it. I think John Cena plays his character very well.
He seems to excel.
He's surprisingly good in almost everything.
He really is.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, like, I feel like a lot of his characters are kind of the same. Like, kind of how The Rock was originally when he started. Like, he was only in, like, action-type movies, and he had to have, like, those smaller indie movies to kind of get himself over a little bit more so that he could maybe try to branch out. Cena doesn't take himself seriously in this movie at fucking all. I mean, at one point, he's dressed like Britney Spears.
Okay.
His shtick is his name is Rock Hard Ron or Rock Hard Rod, and he impersonates musicians, but because he impersonates them about songs about jerking off. Like, Michael Jackson's "Beat It" is a big one. Again, Britney Spears. I mean, come on. Yeah, really. I mean, the little, like, 1 minute and a half snippet of songs he sings is probably worth the entire movie. I mean, it's hilarious. It is pretty entertaining. I will say Zac Efron looks really weird in this movie.
Is he in that?
Yeah.
I think this is because he just come off doing like the Iron Claw movie.
Iron Claw, which I need to watch.
He's probably still jacked to the gills.
It ain't even the jacked part. Like, he's had to have plastic surgery done because his jawline is like,
his jawline is huge.
Yeah, it's so it's very noticeable in this movie. I will definitely say that. Do I think they all kind of work? So the basis of it is three friends when they're young pulled a prank on somebody. They threw a flaming bag of poop on someone's porch, and the poop started expanding and started catching the house on fire.
Okay.
So instead of admitting what they did, they made up a fake friend to take the heat, and they just kind of utilized him throughout the rest of their lives. So, like, anytime they wanted to get out of a sticky situation or something that they just didn't want to do, they're like, oh, no, Ricky's calling and he's got cancer. Or, oh, no, Ricky's in town and he's leaving tomorrow. So they kind of utilize him like that. And then, like, what happens and what really jumpstarts the whole movie is that Ricky calls, says he has cancer during one of the other guys' baby's shower. So then they all decide to, like, go to Atlantic City and they take off. And then the next thing you know, they shut their phones off. And then his wife gives birth to their kid and he's in Atlantic City and their phones are off. So when they turn their phones back on, he's got voicemails like, hey, I'm in labor. You missed it. And so, like, they rush back and that's what really starts everything. And all in all, it's a really raunchy comedy. It has its funny points and whatnot. If I give it maybe like a 6.5 out of 10, it wasn't crazy great, but for a Prime drop, it was entertaining. I will say that much. So if you're a fan of John Cena and you want to see him look dumb, give it a shot.
Yeah, because up until like the other day, I hadn't even heard of this. So I saw like a little ad for it on Prime.
Well, apparently the big thing now is that John Cena had an OnlyFans specifically to
for the character
promote this movie. Yeah.
And he's just been putting up dumb shit on it the whole time, which is great.
Like he's got a point where he's holding a cream pie.
Okay.
And you know, like just sexual innuendos and shit. But I mean, shit. You know, if people are paying to see John Cena do dumb shit, like,
I mean, if you've ever followed his Instagram, it's nothing but dumb shit. Like he just posts the weirdest, strangest memes on
random pictures.
Yeah, it is so crazy. But like I said, if you got Prime, give it a shot. If you want to see something raunchy and just kind of stupid, it's fun.
Now, is there any John Cena side boob?
No, it's all full frontal, sadly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I'm not interested. Yeah. I like a little bit of the imagination.
It's the imaginary part. Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Well, speaking of Prime, did you watch the Fallout thing? Because that's coming out.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yeah. So I was going to mention that the thing that was cool about that is, unlike typical Prime fashion, they're going to dump all the episodes at once.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it looks amazing.
It looks incredible.
For what it is, like I when they announced it, it was one of those things where I kind of wrote off like another video game adaptation, and like again, it might go down that road. I don't know yet. I haven't seen the finished product, but from what they have shown, it looks incredibly promising.
They seem to be putting actual thought into it, and making sure that it is relevant to the game series on which it's based.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Absolutely. So it looks like they gave it a pretty decent budget too.
Yeah.
So like things look good. Like in this most recent trailer they put out, they have like the little robot thing from the last game. With the eyes.
Yeah.
That looked really well done. Like I was surprised. So it looks good. I'm looking forward to that. It's April like 11th
or something like that. Yeah.
Around the corner here. So I will watch that. We can kick it over to emails. First, we got some good old GameStop emails here. So, first email we have, and I'm going to read these
Just
first
read them
two
together.
because they're both similar. We have Alex from Redacted. Hey dudes, question for you on GameStop and shortages. Did you all ever have any crazy game shortages? I mean, sure, since the pandemic, it's been please pre-order this if you want it. And even then we may not get enough copies of it, but Rebirth has been the worst I've seen it post-pandemic. My store was shorted 6 of my 20 reserves, and I'm being told I may not get those restocked until the end of the following week. To be fair, I did a first come first serve for the pickups to make it even, but the customers that got screwed, all but one canceled the reserve. It's just embarrassing. We preach reserve as a company, and then we can't fulfill what we preach. Insane. Other email we got here comes from Danny from Redacted. Hey, my dudes, man, fuck this Rebirth launch. I work in a store that still does fairly decent on reserves, and my store had roughly 40 reserves between the regular and the deluxe edition. We had 10 deluxe, which we got all of those, and 30 regular copies, which I received 15 of them. That's right, half. I think this week, because of this, I've lost more regulars over not being able to fulfill their reserves than anything I can remember in the last few years. And calling around my other neighboring stores, we are all experiencing the same thing. I'm trying to find out if they shorted us as a company or what's going on with it. They won't even give me a restock date.
Because they don't have one.
No, they don't. That's the first thing I would say. But do you remember anything that was like really crazy?
Nothing egregious, but it would happen. Because there would be plenty of times where we'd have 20 reserves of something and get 16 or 17, and then it was up to you to try to call other stores and be like, hey, do you have extras? Or they would fuck up premium editions or deluxe editions of stuff.
I was going to say that would be the more common one, would be anything that was a deluxe or premium.
I don't remember it ever being super crazy, but it would happen from time to time. And then he mentions this thing about post-pandemic about reserve it or we might not get it. That existed long before the pandemic.
It did. Yeah.
Like, that was from at least 2016, 17, up until the last couple of years I was there. If it was a smaller title, and I'm not even saying a title nobody's ever heard of. I'm saying smaller title as in it's not a AAA release. If you don't reserve it, we won't get it. And if you do reserve it, we might get your one, maybe two.
Yeah, I almost lost my mind based on somebody, and I know they were just doing what they're told to do. But when somebody told me well, if you wanted a sealed version, you should have pre-ordered it. I was like, I will burn your store to the ground right now. You do not say that to my friend.
It's crazy. I mean, we would try to warn people as best we can because, you would get someone come in, and part of your job is striking up the what are you looking forward to kind of thing. So let's say it's Unicorn Overlord is probably a great idea.
It's probably a good
example of something that not a huge title, especially now in the digital age. If they would casually mention it, you would be like, hey, if you want to get a copy of it, you should probably reserve it. And then we would always throw in that because if you don't, and you just try to come in and buy it that day, I'm either A, not going to have any, or B, I would have gotten one, which I would have had to gut and put out. Now,
I was saying, unless you were here at 10 a.m., but even then,
our store typically wouldn't do that because if it's the only one of something and it's a day of release, they can sit behind the counter for today until somebody comes in and maybe asks for it. But yeah, that's a thing that existed for a long time before. I will say that egregiously not getting copies of stuff did happen to me at Game Crazy towards the end. And a lot of that was because that whole company was shuttering and it was just, I don't think they had lines of credit to buy anything because they had blown all of their money on specifically Fight Night Round 4 and Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, we got 60 copies of each of those games and we had maybe 10 reserves of each. And they would just sit there.
Okay.
And Fight Night Round 4 got so bad to the point where it was the first game they started offering us commission. If we sold a copy, we'd get extra because they fucked up. And then from that point on, it was we might not get all that we need.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, for them to fuck up Rebirth is crazy.
I mean, I'd argue that so far this year, that would probably be the biggest game launch.
Has to be number one, right? It's gonna be number one for months. It's Helldivers, but Helldivers is something that you couldn't have predicted. And
that's more of a fluke in terms of how successful it's been.
But I was reading stories about people who didn't have Rebirth in time for them to open, like any copies, and got it.
Like
later,
they had to wait.
Got it later that day. Like, that's really fucked. And
I want to say that happened to us with a game once.
Probably more than once. And especially if it was like a smaller thing where, you could see distros before they would come in. So it'd be like, well, we're getting 4 of them at some point. And, people would come in and be like, sorry. But I also do remember getting to that point where we would do that thing where, like, if it was the first day and we got 1 copy of that, we'd let it sit for the day. Just let it sit for the day.
Just to see if somebody was going to come in, just so they didn't have to do that.
I mean, but, we were proactive thinkers. Most GameStops we're not. You get a case like Ryan's thing where, you want the game and you go in and GameStop should have video games. Like, this is somehow this is a bizarre concept to even them, where if anyone in the country gets a copy of a weird game that day of release, it should be GameStop. But
I agree.
That whole company has, it started when we were leaving, and the pandemic changed everything, and then Chewy changed everything, and the whole thing's a shit show now. And you've got stores getting closed on 1 day's notice. Hey, this store closes tomorrow. Hey, this store closes next week. There's a thing going around the Reddit right now where it's, if your lease is up this year, kiss it goodbye, kind of a thing. Which,
for sure.
I mean, that's the easiest way to do it, right? Why pay to keep open a store that's not going to make money? Or they're not going to push credit cards?
Well.
The
credit card. I think, we did. Yeah. I was going to say, I'm pretty sure we got another email about the credit card.
Ryan's a big GameStop credit card guy.
Oh, man. I have 3 or 4 of them. I opened one for my son already.
Yes.
There you go.
All you got to do is type it in online, and they'll probably approve it.
Yeah, they can approve so many of them.
Next email we have comes from Roger from Cincinnati, Ohio. Hey, bros, I'm curious on something. Saw Kyle's Marble Gallery video about the current state of games industry between all these layoffs, cancellations on not only big games, but even full franchises like Battlefield. And I'm curious what the rest of you have as an opinion on what's going on with it and what the solution might be. Thanks. I did do a video on this.
We kind of talked about it a little bit earlier where, like Ryan was saying, we're like, it's going to have to
lower budgets is my first thing I threw out there.
Lower budgets. I mean, it seems weird to say it, but like lowered expectations of what games could/should be. Like,
not everything needs to be 100 hours, dude. Like,
it's not even that. It's not everything.
Yeah. What happened to the 20-hour, $40 game? I think that's gonna make a big comeback. And then I honestly think probably what is going to have a big resurgence. Like, there's always going to be people trying to spend millions upon millions of dollars to make whatever, but you're going to get more stories like, Baldur's Gate 3. I think, especially in a digital age now where you don't have to worry about getting stuff on a Walmart shelf or a GameStop shelf the same way, there's going to be a lot of creativity. And I think those type of games are going to be, because eventually gamers will get just tired of waiting for stuff. And then like, oh, this is can't like most people aren't ultra nerds like us that care about like the business side of stuff. Most just want their shit.
Right.
Yeah. They just want a fun game to play today.
Yeah.
Like they don't care about the other stuff about it. And I think more indie developers will like take that template and figure out how to get their games out there and get that word of mouth online and all that. And I think a lot of stuff's going to go that way.
Well, especially with everything going digital, indie stuff becomes more prevalent because if the place to go to buy a game is on your console, you'll see the indie content on there more often than if you had just went to the store and picked up a physical copy. That's the only thing you cared about. It's just like you talk about like franchises being canceled, like Battlefield. Battlefield's probably not canceled, but it's one of those things where it's such a big name; it'll come back at some point, right? It kind of.
There's no way that is a completely dead forever.
But
Franchise,
it can't come back as what it was. So that's why it takes time for that stuff to do. But then you worry about stuff like that, where then all of a sudden it's like, well, we need to hire 100 more people, 200 more people. It's like, no, like maybe scale the game back. Know, Battlefield grew to the point where it was like, it's 64 on 64. And then it came out and everybody kind of realized we don't really need that. Like, most people prefer 16 on 16 or hell, Battle Royale shit these days. Like, even Call of Duty's a Battle Royale game now.
It is.
I mean, but yeah, it's just, it's tough to say like what it's going to take for it to finally bottom out. But like a game like Suicide Squad is a good leaping off point.
It is,
to the point where that fails so hard, and Hogwarts, a single player adventure game based on a franchise people love, is the best selling game of last year.
Brand new studio,
right?
More or less.
Yeah, it's the biggest selling game of last year, but even that isn't enough for them to say, well, we just need live service stuff instead.
That's the crazy part. And I should have put that in the news, but like for them not to take that as a moment to pivot direction. Like, hey, look at this thing that made us billions of dollars versus this thing that just failed and cost us like billions of dollars. Now let's go do that.
Let's take the thing that made money and like completely warp it into something that doesn't make money.
Yeah,
that makes me think that they have some unannounced projects they're just in too deep on.
Yeah,
that would be my guess. Because like Sony was having the same, like, wasn't that like they were working on like 10 different live service games or something stupid?
I
like
want to say they scaled that back to 5 now.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. And I don't fault anyone that likes live service shit, because like there's some of, but like
some are good.
It's a very low success rate in the grand scheme of things. Of, you know, for every Destiny 2, you get whatever, you get foam stars or whatever bullshit is happening with that kind of stuff. You know? So
season 2 foam stars coming soon.
Oh yeah, that's the news we should have led with. And yeah.
Hey, Dan's played foam stars.
Played enough foam stars.
Played enough of it. Yeah, but I think, and I do think at some point it is going to bottom out, and then like you said, Ryan, we're going to get a lot of those like mid-tier. Not that those are bad, obviously, but mid-tier experiences.
Talking mid-tier budget-wise, not budget quality.
Yeah, because like obviously, like indie stuff never has the budget, but the quality of that stuff is incredible. Sometimes I think we talked about last time you were here, like Sea of Stars. I love that game to death.
Yeah.
And that's an indie game that's a better RPG than most companies have put out in the past decade.
Yeah. So, and that's 40 hours?
I think probably 30 to 40, depending on
but
how.
It's like it never felt long, because it just felt like I was playing a game I really enjoyed the whole time. Yeah.
For sure.
So in conclusion, what we're saying is in 10 years, Kemco
will be the only company left.
They're going to be the only ones that figured it out.
They're pumping out a game.
Microsoft acquires Kemco. That's your next big merger.
There you go.
Yeah, for $80 billion. $80 billion.
FTC can't handle it.
Yeah.
What will this mean for Square Enix?
Next email we have comes from Brian from Phoenix, Arizona. Hey guys, I thought it was awesome. A few episodes back, you guys had the courage to talk about Sweet Baby Inc. and everything that may be going wrong with them. Given everything that's developed within the last week, what are your opinions now? It's even got Kotaku writing hit pieces for the company in a favorable light, no less. Thanks. How much do you know, before we go into it, about Sweet Baby Inc. and what's going on with that, Ryan? You heard of this?
I start talking about it, but nothing is like.
Do you? Let's back it up. Do you know what Sweet Baby Inc. is? Like, have you ever heard of it?
No.
Okay. Sweet Baby Inc. They're a company out of Canada.
They're a consulting company.
They're a consulting company out of Canada that has pretty much touched every major game, at least in the past, 3-4 years?
Maybe not that long, but a lot.
God of War,
Spider-Man,
Horizon, Spider-Man. And they are a, like, what is the term you use? ESG?
I don't even remember.
An ESG company. Yeah, like they basically, they will take your game, they will look over the story of it, and they will look at it and determine, like, okay, do we need to, is there something here that might offend somebody this way or that way? It's one of those types of companies.
They want to make sure,
like you have in Hollywood.
people aren't marginalized, all this other kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And
So similar, when I was on America's Got Talent, it was more like the law side of it, but they would have people that would literally go over all like your social media stuff. Like it's in the same way. I just feel like, hey, people might find this, they might not like this, they might not like this. But it sounds like it's a similar type.
It's like that, but it also works the other way, where if they feel like people aren't represented, or if other things aren't in the game, they will suggest you add this stuff, or
they will write that into the game. We had a pretty good example. We had a write-in on it, and this was before we even knew what Sweet Baby was, which is funny. But we had somebody write in around the time that the Horizon DLC came out that happened to be gay, and that's important to the story. That in that DLC, and this is a spoiler for Horizon if you're ever going to get to that DLC, but the character of Aloy, up until that DLC, has always been what I would say like asexual. Like she doesn't care about having a relationship with anyone.
Yeah, it kind of goes in and out. Like, but yeah, it's never a core
not that there haven't been opportunities,
story.
Right? Like there's definitely been characters that have hit on her, and she's kind of like, I don't really care. All of a sudden in that DLC, out of nowhere, they bring in another character that is kind of like her. Like she has a focus just like her. They become friends. But she starts to develop feelings for this character. And it just feels really out of place for that character after you've spent, 80 hours with this character between two games, who has never given a shit about that. Mm-hmm. And so we had somebody write in that was just like, as a person that is gay, I find this very bizarre that this is in this game, kind of asking us like how we felt about it. Like, is it odd? Is it kind of off? And then learning later on that this company was hired on to do this. So Sweet Baby probably had some hand in creating that character or creating that relationship for that character. And so this stuff specifically in the last week has gone nuclear on the internet because somebody, and I'm not going to be able to say what country they're from because I don't remember, but there is a person that created a Steam group, and it has a tool, and all the tool does specifically is it just tells you, hey, did this company work on this game? That's all the tool does, right? But this company, Sweet Baby, has gone nuclear back at this, and they're calling people out for it, and they're calling this guy out for it specifically, and it's a huge fucking mess. So it's blown up. But the thing about it is, the regular like games journalists, like media, is not talking about it because they won't touch.
They don't want to get into
10-foot
it because I would tell you, like it feels like it's playing out exactly how you think it would play out between these two groups of people who, from the jump, don't like each other and just have it blow up online.
It's been very blown up. Like I've seen tons of videos on it.
It's getting weird.
But not like IGN's not going to write an article about this. Mm-mm. You know, GameSpot isn't going to talk about. Kotaku did, but that's expected.
Kotaku, you know. Yeah, surprised they didn't write the first article about it. To be fair,
I think they did write the first article.
No, but I'm saying, I'm surprised they didn't break the story about how.
No, you know what I know. So, I'm more or less taking the role of spectator towards it to see what happens.
I think I'm checking out just because.
Yeah.
So. It like these type of, and again, I'm processing information I've just gotten over the last 5 minutes.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it if you want to read into it, but it's
in the business that I work in. So if anyone happens to not know, I'm a stand-up comedian by trade. That is what I do. Mm-hmm. Which a lot of the anti-woke online people have strong opinions about comedy as well. And my guess is what will happen here is exactly what happens in comedy, where a lot of people have really strong opinions and get in their feelings and yell things on the internet, and nothing actually changes because it's all made up. It's all nonsense.
Right.
Like I know this isn't exactly the same, but like in comedy, it's about like, oh, you can't say, they always try to force this, and it's cancel culture. Not a real thing. Cancel culture does not exist in the world of stand-up comedy whatsoever. For this, like this, it's woke, anti-woke. It's not a real thing. It is a made-up online echo chamber, and both ways. The people that get into it with them, and you know, the people who are fighting like, no, there should be, like, it's not a real thing. It's just it's people who don't understand, and I'm not claiming I do, but people who don't understand the intricacies and nuance of these much bigger issues yelling shit about video game. Like, people are going to yell and have opinions, and it won't matter because the games will do well. I mean, look, last year, people were trying to cancel Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And,
didn't work.
The internet, the people who yell about this shit in forums and stuff, they can have whatever opinions they want, but it's such a small niche. Do you think anyone going to the fucking store, going to GameStop, gives a shit about Sweet Baby?
No, well, the thing is because
none of this exists. It doesn't matter.
Nobody really knows about it. It only really came to light recently, and I think the only reason it's even going the way it is now is because, to be fair, the people who work there and like the CEO of that company is the one who is like the loudest on the other side. And it's like, if you're the CEO of this company and, you know, you're proud of what your company does, you have no problem with what they do, and you're not doing, and you don't actually do what all these other people believe that you do, maybe going after their throats for it is maybe not the right way to go about it.
Yeah.
Like,
that's why I said, like, not like all this gets blown up and none of it's real, and everyone should just shut up.
What you should do is probably like take the time to teach people, or like have a real interview in a real setting about what your company is and what it does. But she has gone off the rails to the point where like her account, was it her account that got like blocked on Twitter? It was her or the other person like got reported and blocked, and then the other thing went private, and it's just like, it is a mess. And what they could have done is they could have just stayed out of it.
They could have just ignored it.
They could have just stayed out of it. The guy made a Steam group. Wow. Look out, everybody. And you know what the worst part was? Is he made a Steam group that had 1,000 followers, 1,200 followers, but because they went after him, it has over 200,000. So all you did was bring attention to their cause by going crazy. Take a break.
In a lot of these situations, there's an old Mike Birbiglia special that the title of it is called "What I Should Have Said Is Nothing."
Yes.
And
that is one of my favorite jokes of all time. Yes.
But I think that, like, I mean, and it's hard. Like, I've trained myself not to be this guy anymore, but because of how immediate shit on the internet is, it's hard not to get drawn into this stuff.
Yeah,
it is.
Like when I did America's Got Talent, that was the first time I really had like loud haters. And it didn't matter that 99% of the people who commented on whatever videos or whatever was positive. But you have one guy say a shitty thing, and my brain was like, that's what my life needs to be now. I need to publicly yell at these people.
Right.
And like, it's hard to untrain your brain to do that. But anyone that's listening, the general rule in life should be, what you should have said was nothing.
Yes.
Just shut up.
Well, the other thing too, you think about like a consulting firm especially for writing, and we've talked about in the past, like, what, you know, I'm sure one of the things that they predominantly do is they pass off the writing jobs for like, hey, go write out these side quests for this game.
Right.
You know, like stuff that's not the main story, because who wants to be the person that sits and writes 40 of those, you know, for the game? So, but yeah, I 100% agree. So, we have another redacted email. So, Will from Redacted. Hey, fellas. Just wanted to throw my 2 cents into this GameStop credit card. Fuck it. I hate this thing. It should have never come back. I feel like such a filthy salesman selling this to people who have no fucking business ever having a credit card and will likely fuck up their credit. It's gross. Just wanted to get that off my chest. Thanks for doing what y'all do. And yes, I'm working on getting out of this shithole.
Well, see,
another one who hates.
Yeah, you're throwing in your 2 cents, but with the interest on the credit card, that's like $300.
2%.
So be careful.
Yeah.
It's 32%, right?
Yes, 32.24 or so. I
think it was 27 when we had it. So.
Yeah, we went over. I want to say it changed a couple times, but it's just like, no one needs a GameStop credit card. You don't. If you want a credit card, get a real credit card.
There's very few businesses where I feel it's like beneficial,
Right.
Like an airline. If
Sure.
you fly a ton, there's a perk to that.
Right.
I would argue because it's just so ingrained in society now, like an Amazon card. I can at least see the appeal of doing that. Games, as much as I love video games and it's a big business, it's like a specific store that is such a niche thing.
Well,
that like what the fuck are you doing? And it's like, it reminds me back of in college where they did this thing where they just tricked dumb, poor college students. Where like, if you sign up for this credit card, we'll give you a free Papa John's pizza. And that line was wrapped around the fucking block.
It's just, well, and like, and you're like us where you don't buy video games at one place. And that one place certainly is in GameStop. So unless you're making every purchase at that store and you're there all the time and you're paying it off so you don't get hit by 32% interest, there's no reasonable explanation for you to have one of these credit cards. There just isn't.
2%.
There's like, it makes far more sense to go to the bank you've banked at for 5 years and apply for a credit card there. As long as you're in good standing with the bank, you're probably going to get one with a low balance and then use it and build it up. Yep. Like, that's how credit cards work. They don't. Like,
now I don't think you guys would know this now because you've been out of it for so long, but like, is there like any kind of statistics for like how many whales GameStop has for like people who like spend?
Okay,
you know,
I see what you mean.
I'm very casual with like, if there's an exclusive, you know, when they had like exclusive amiibos, I'm going to buy that.
Sure.
I'll occasionally find some used games, you know, whatever like that.
You're a typical.
I'm looking for action figures now. I buy a couple things here and there.
You're what we would have called like a regular. You were someone we would have known because you came in and you spent a decent amount of money. You were looking for the same things every time. If we're just going out, I don't think, you know, GameStop would never have told us those numbers because
God, no.
we barely were allowed to know our own numbers unless they were bad, in which case we get yelled at. But if we're going off of like, you know,
I want to say, ironically, all of our whales were Nintendo people.
They typically tended to be because they were the people that bought every Nintendo first party thing day of with accessories, all that stuff all the time. If we're just going off of our store and, you know, I worked video game retail for, let's say I worked at video game retail for 15 years full time. So if I'm just going off of how many I can count, I would say there's probably only.
It's not that big of a number.
No, and if we're talking like whales, like the people who keep places in business, 5.
I can think of 2 when we were at GameStop.
There were 3 that I can remember specifically from GameStop. Nintendo
the
family.
2 I'm thinking of Nintendo. Yes.
The woman and her daughter.
Part of the Nintendo family though was they would buy 4 of everything.
Yes, everything
because they
all
had
the
to.
time. They had to. When Switches were reservable, we were only allowed to do like 1 per person. I called her and said, "How many do you need?"
Yeah,
and she said, "I need 4." And I said, "That's not a problem." Like because again,
they spent so much
under
money.
the whale mentality, I have to give it to the people who will keep the store open.
Yeah,
and not give it to someone I'll never see again or a scalper or whatever. So there was them. There was the woman and her daughter, who her daughter was handicapped. Like,
I remember you talking about
disgusting
now.
for starters.
How did I deal with it? I know. But
for anyone listening, I have a disability. I don't want that to be a weird thing. That
Ryan,
like speaking of cancel culture, let's get rid of that guy right now. Now I have a noticeable disability. I am the cripple threat. Like I can say
really? Where?
Yeah, it's true. It's massive penis. It's ruining my life.
God. You soldier, you.
I have it harder than anyone ever. Pun intended.
But she would come in with her daughter, and they would buy everything Nintendo, every Skylander thing ever released, and I'm talking all of it. Which, if anyone knows, that's a shitload of stuff. Like I have a lot of Amiibo, too many Amiibo. Ryan, you do too. Skylanders.
And by too many, you mean all of them?
Yes,
correct?
all of them.
Yes, that's what I have.
I don't know if you can see this box over here. That's full of them. And then there's some up over here, and then there's some in that room.
My downstairs closet, which should be for storage of shit like vacuums, and stuff, is about 75% Amiibos.
Hey, fingers crossed. We're almost done.
Like different conversation here,
Yeah.
but I'm telling you, I love the amiibo, like legitimately.
I love
think
the
they're
quality
great,
of them.
they look great. They feel good, but like every new one they announce, I just go.
I get sadder every time. Yeah.
Please stop! I love them so much, but let me quit. Let me out.
Yeah. Sidebar. It's nice to have like an official Nintendo toy of each character I love in the same scale and the same quality. Because, you know, there's like all those toy lines where it's like they stopped making this toy line. So there's a new toy line and they're slightly different. These are uniform. These all exist amongst themselves. But so anyway, this one will buy every Skylander all the time. And I think we even asked her one time, it's like, can we just ask, like, how do you spend so much money here? Like, we're just curious. Like, we, you know, nothing against you. We're just curious. We love this one. We'd call her all the time if we got stuff in. And she said, well, you know, my daughter, she's handicapped. She can't do sports or ballet or dance or any of that thing. But what we can do is we can play games together. So since I'm not spending money on all this other stuff, I just put it into this. And we were like, you know what? Honestly, that makes the most sense out of probably anything I've ever heard a customer say in this store. So more power to you. And we would hook her up like crazy.
The only thing, like the only small question, and I know it's not your job, like place being the worker, is just like, if you're so into like clearly they have to know something about games just through osmosis if you're buying that many.
Mm-hmm.
GameStop's not always the best place to buy shit.
No, but it was for her because we would hook her up any possible way.
Got it. Okay, got it.
So it was the kind of thing where it's like, is something hard to find coming out Skylanders related, it's yours. If we get extra those stupid crystal things traded in, because those were hot for that one game, they're yours. Like, we will call you, we'll set it aside. If you can't pick it up for a month, I don't care. It's in the back for you.
I would also say it probably goes along with like the old Cheers mentality, where there might be better places to drink, but everyone treats you well there. And your friends are there, and like all that. So that makes
third
sense.
Person.
The third person, you might not remember him. You were there for sure. It was the guy who would buy every new release.
Nintendo?
Everything. Every new release and every strategy guide and controllers, and he would hang out and he would just talk. Older man. He was probably in his 60s, and then he just stopped showing up.
Was that the guy where we found out and his collection came in?
Yes.
Okay.
He stopped showing up one day, and
not the person I was thinking.
No, and then all of a sudden, his son came in with boxes of like U-Haul boxes of stuff.
Yeah,
and he's like, he passed away. And we were like, oh, shit. Like, because he was his name was Ben, incredibly nice guy. He would shoot the shit, but he wasn't annoying because most of them are. Yeah. And when the guy's like, I've got like 4 more, it's everything this guy had. And what we're trying to do is trade all this stuff in to buy new stuff for my son, his grandson, to kind of like cheer him up a little bit because grandpa died, all that kind of stuff. And we're like, whatever you got, man, bring it in. We'll figure it out. Like, we'll take care of it. Because, you know, store policies don't take back sealed games or whatever. But this guy bought everything. So I would say 50% of this stuff was sealed. And we're like, don't worry about it. Like, we'll take care of it. It took, I think I worked on that almost the entire day.
Yeah,
and I even told the guy, like,
it was a big,
bring it in, drop it off. I will work on this and I'll call you and we'll take care of it. It ended up being, he got somewhere in the area of like $1,500 or something, which was wild.
I mean, on GameStop math, that's
multiple transactions, all kinds of stuff. We hooked the kid up. We got him all kinds of stuff. Like, it was just, you know, those are the kind of people that they were cool with us, man. If you're cool, we're cool. But when you're an asshole and you try to make decisions like, or blame me for stuff that corporate does, I don't give a shit about you. But I would consider him one. There were 2. There were like, in my head, it makes sense. There were probably like 2 at Game Crazy, but like, yeah, there's not many whales in a GameStop scenario. No. Especially now. I can't imagine one existing now. Can't imagine.
The only reason I asked is like, that would be the only person that should get a credit card.
Yeah, well, even then, if they can afford to be the GameStop whale, they probably have a credit card with rewards. That's a little bit
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Next email we have is directed at me. I'll read it.
Oh, sorry. All right, everybody, check out.
Everyone, mute. 5 minutes. Mic on mute, so we can't talk.
Casey from San Francisco, California. Hey guys, question for Kyle, really, but I don't think it's ever been discussed on the podcast nor on the YouTube channel. What is your favorite Batman and why? Has it ever changed or has it always stayed the same? Follow-up question for someone who's just getting into comics and is very interested in Batman stories. What would you recommend is a good place to start? Thanks. Yeah, they're like, oh boy, here's the next 3 hours. Like,
Turn into Kyle's Batcast starting right after this.
There we go. Short answer is, and I give the same answer pretty much every time.
I know it.
Live action, it's Michael Keaton. Overall, it's Kevin Conroy. So, in a close second place to live action, though, I will throw this out there because it confuses people. Ben Affleck.
You just like it because he killed people, like a lot of people.
Did you see Zack Snyder was out defending that the other day?
I mean,
on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Well, that's the place where you defend that, I guess.
Yeah,
it's the place where that's safe to say.
He said that was the first thing he was interested in when he made that movie was when they told him, "Well, Batman doesn't kill." He's like, "But why? I want to investigate that." It's like, well, you kind of let him kill people in that, so. As far as good places to start in comics, I mean, you could go with classics. You know, you could go with the classics like Dark Knight Returns, Year One. Those are good. If you want stuff that's a little more recent, the entire run of that Scott Snyder did when it was called the New 52. I don't know what it's called today because I have not. I don't think I've picked up a current Batman comic in like 5 years because I exited myself from the comic game and got into guitar stuff. So because I had to give up a hobby to take that hobby on. So that was the hobby I gave up. But I would say the Scott Snyder run, all of it is fantastic. That is a good modern place to go. You get the Court of Owls, which is very, very current, very, very good storyline.
That was what I read for a while because we were getting heavy into comics, and I was like, I'm going to pick
really
up.
Good.
I was doing all Marvel stuff, and I was like, I'm going to get one DC thing.
That was the one.
And that was the one DC run I read.
Always really good. There's a part of that storyline where he's gone for a while, and Jim Gordon of all people takes over as Batman. That's a really cool storyline. But that whole run is very good. And then the other one that I always, besides Nightfall, which is, you know, Bane, all that. And then you get the, I'd love to see them do even an animated movie of that storyline, Nightfall. You get the evil Batman that is actually killing people. So that's a really cool storyline. That's from like the 90s. And then the other one that I always like to throw in there, if you want to get really wacky and crazy, I wouldn't recommend it as a place to start. But after you've read a couple other things, is the Grant Morrison run that begins with kind of a reintroduction to Damian Wayne that gets really, really insane. He travels through time at one point. Very, very cool story. But if you're just starting, I'd say either those classics or the Scott Snyder run is fantastic. It's a lot of that is old school detective, kind of like that most recent Pattinson Batman movie. So,
yeah.
But that's what I would recommend.
I will say, just to empathize a little bit. I don't know if Casey needs empathy or not, but I decided this year I wanted to get into comics just a little bit in general too, and it is very overwhelming. If you want to start it, and even if you narrow it down to a character like Casey did, like I want to do Batman. You just mentioned 100 different fucking things that my brain just went. So I subscribed to Marvel Unlimited this year just to kind of give it a shot and take a look at some stuff. And I'm just reading the original Amazing Spider-Man right now.
There you go.
And even that is overwhelming. Like when you realize just like the scope.
I could help you with some Spider-Man stuff of like what to skip, where to start.
Yeah. Well, like here's the problem that maybe comics is going to be a bad deal for me. Mm-hmm. I can't skip things. That is not how my brain works. You're going to run
into some rough patches.
I got this mentality from being a pro wrestling fan my entire life. If you can make it through the really terrible stuff, I feel that you are rewarded when it's good.
That's true for the most part.
Through. Yeah. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan as well. It's the same thing. 2016 was worth it for all the bullshit.
And the last 8 years have been hell. But
exactly.
You know what? I want to. I just started. I don't want to say getting back into comics, but I was like, I really want to see what my buddy Spider-Man is up to again. So a good way to get into this stuff too is if you don't want to get deep. I've just started buying the trades of the current run. Like because I don't want to get back into where I'm buying single issues and reserving them at a place and going. I don't want to do that anymore. Like I can go to
the time for it.
No, I can't. I don't. I can go to Barnes and Noble and pick up the first, I think, 4 trades of the current Spider-Man run, which, by the way, is fucking crazy. A lot of shit has happened since I left, but that's an easy way to kind of get back in at a decent price, and you can get a nice chunk of story at a time.
Is that the run where he's married and older now?
No, this is a different one where it starts in issue 1 where everyone fucking hates him and you don't know why.
Okay.
Because if you didn't know, you don't know.
Okay.
The only other thing I would say, just since it brought up, and you have Marvel Unlimited, Ryan, yes. I know you're only reading Spider-Man. I would highly recommend to you to read the Daredevil 2011 run with Mark Waid and Chris Samney. It is even though Spider-Man's number 1 for me, it is quite possibly my favorite run of comics in ever.
Yeah, does that start in 2011?
Yeah, so if you just look for Daredevil 2011 Mark Waid, you'll find it.
Okay.
But it is by far my favorite. It has some of the greatest reveals like ever in that series. Yeah. It is and the art in it is amazing. It is some of my favorite art because it's almost
like me some Daredevil. I'm one of the only people who went and saw that movie 4 times.
I saw it.
Speaking of Affleck,
I saw it twice, so I get it.
Yeah.
But I love, like Kyle knows, like Spider-Man's number 1 for me by far, but Daredevil is like 1B, and I'm one of the few people I think that love him that much. But like that run of comics was perfection. And that was one of the things that I made sure I got signed at C2E2 when we went. I
think that year we both did from Mark Waid.
Snyder was there, wasn't he?
It got to the point for me where like we went the 1 year and I was like, okay, cool, I'll get this number 1 first print issue of Batman number 1 New 52 signed by Scott Snyder. And then we went so many times, it's like, all right, now I'm getting bullshit issues of this signed by this man. I need to stop. So, but and then we ended up transitioning to going to game conventions after that.
I think I just brought my number 1.
So.
And
all right.
Yeah,
I have saved it to my library.
Perfect. That is very good.
I'll take a gander. Yes. Thank you for the rec.
Yes.
There you go. Next email we have comes from Brendan from Ames, Iowa. Hey all, love the retro conversation in the last episode, especially about hooking up your systems and how y'all do it. I'm curious what you recommend as far as cables. I'm looking to go down the HDMI route myself as I don't presently have any CRTs. To give a rundown, I have a Dreamcast, PS2, GameCube, and original Xbox I'm looking to get set up. What do you recommend for the best bang for your buck? Also, you talked about going to an upcoming convention. What are you guys all looking to get in terms of retro things? As far as like what to hook up or like how to hook it up, the thing that I've had the most success with that has not broken the bank, because I will say like that GameCube adapter is amazing, but it's $150. So yeah. I can't go out and recommend you drop $150.
Yeah, that's where it gets tough, because like I would say, like, I mean, the retro tank is awesome, but not everybody has that kind of money for that type of thing.
I did that more or less because I love the GameCube, but I have had extreme success with the company. They're called Pound. The Pound HDMI cables. I have the Dreamcast
like
one.
I like those.
I have the PS2 one, which works for PS1. And I have the original Xbox one, which I think works fine considering that company that made that GameCube adapter I bought for $150. They made an Xbox one that's like what, $200? I think so. Too much. And I've had nothing but success with those cables. I think it looks just fine when I hook it up to an HDMI like TV. So again, and especially with the Xbox, you might even run into some games. There are a select few Xbox games that if you hook it up by that type of connection, it actually runs at 720p.
Yeah.
Like, what is that? Cold Storage or whatever that horror game is?
Because I think
that runs at 720p.
I think the important thing about those cables is they have the chip in them, don't they? Isn't that why they?
I believe so. Yeah.
Work the way they do. I thought that was the kind that did.
But those are roughly, I think, about $30, and I think that's more than fair for what they do. So I've had nothing but luck. I don't know if they make a GameCube version of that or not. I just, at the time that thing came out, I just kind of was like, I'll get this. So and that's it. I'd go out. I also at the time had a GameCube that did not have the correct.
You got to make sure you have the port.
I had to get that swapped.
Yeah, that's the other thing about.
I had to go get that swapped out. So
because I think if you just have the AV port, I think your really only option is you need to get like a AV to HDMI converter thing, which is going to look terrible.
Yeah.
So looking at their website, they have one for original Xbox, Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, Super Nintendo, N64, Genesis, Saturn, TurboGrafx.
Oh, wow.
That is what they list right now.
I should get one for TurboGrafx.
That is more than the last time that I actually
it's interesting.
Bought these.
The 64 one doesn't work with the Cube?
Or is it? I'm not looking at the specifics.
Sure.
I'm just
I wonder if it is because you do need the Cube with the port.
Yeah, that could be.
It might be something internal in that system, just in general, where it was never.
Yeah.
But if it can,
this does not say specifically. But I mean, I'm sure there's videos.
Yeah, I'm only asking because the SNES, the 64, and the Cube, that's all the same cable. Like one of the smartest things Nintendo ever did was like, just the same fucking thing. But, I wonder if it is because of that port.
Be interesting.
Yeah.
And then, he obviously didn't mention NES or Super Nintendo. Those are different. I mean, for Super Nintendo, I bought that, what's the name of that company?
Analog.
I always forget. Analog.
Yeah.
I have the Analog Super NT, which is amazing. And I could not justify $500 for the NES one, and they don't make it anymore. So
that one is frustrating because I did justify $500 for it.
Okay,
and when I have the patience to spend an hour to get the cart to actually sit properly in it, it looks amazing. Yeah. It's got a really rough. The Super Nintendo and Genesis ones do not have that problem, though. I think those read pretty well.
Yeah,
but because the NES one, it's like designed like the top loader,
right?
But it has too much give, so it's really hard to nest it to where it. Whereas like some of the complaints about the Super Nintendo and Genesis ones, where it's too tight, so you feel like you're bending the pegs coming out there. They overcorrected with how loose the NES one was.
Okay. And then as far as like stuff, I'm looking for that convention. I don't know if I mentioned on the podcast, and I'm looking for a copy of Eternal Darkness for the game. That's like the one game. Like everything else I'm looking for, I got to sit down and make my list. I haven't made it yet, but I'm looking for, like, I want to look at PS1 stuff, but I know it's going to be way overpriced, so I'm probably going to stick in that like 360 original Xbox era of stuff that isn't as badly overpriced right now. One game that I recently realized I do not have on the 360 that I need is that Chronicles of Riddick remaster.
Oh, I forgot about that.
I do not have that, and that's probably not very common. I don't think it's very expensive when I looked it up, but I don't have it. But Eternal Darkness, that's the one.
I just looked.
I have the original Escape from Butcher Bay for original Xbox, but I don't have the 360 remake.
If my fan wasn't blocking it, I was going to grab my copy of Eternal Darkness.
Eternal Darkness, that's the one. I'm like, you know what?
This one.
Yeah. It goes for 100. I'm like, I'll just do it because that's something I actually really want to stream this fall when I do horror games in October. And I would like to actually own a copy of that. It's like one of the weird GameCube games I, for whatever reason, don't own. Yeah. So that's probably the biggest one for me. How about you?
I'm just looking to like
weird baseball games.
I'm looking for weird baseball games I don't have on any system. I'll take them all. It doesn't matter. And and whenever I go to these shows, I like to bulk out my Super Nintendo collection and just buy like, random anywhere up to like $15 or $20 Super Nintendo games that maybe I don't see all the time. Mm-hmm. Where you're like, you pick something up and you're like, man, what is this? And you kind of look at it and go, oh, that's interesting, and pick it up. So I just like to bulk it out. And then the one thing I did finally was I have a lot of DS games cases with instructions with no games. Because at GameStop, when we would take them in, we didn't keep the cases for most stuff.
Thank you for not putting those in the dumpster.
Yes, so
I appreciate
you. And you know what we actually used to do a lot was we would gut them because we had to display them as just a chip the way we had the case and everything. We would keep a lot of cases. Like if it was a good game, we'd keep the case in like a bottom drawer. So if somebody bought it, we would check to see if we had it and then put it back in and give it to you. Because why wouldn't we do that? But if it was a game that like I was kind of interested in, or maybe I'll get at some point, or maybe it's like a weird DS game I'd never heard of, I'll just take the case. So I have a box full of 150 to 200 empty DS and 3DS cases. A lot of doubles of stuff. But what I finally did is on Game Eye, I went and made a wish list of all of the DS games I need the game to fill the case.
You're going to be able to find some loose DS.
Absolutely. And a lot of them are weird one-off things nobody gives a shit about. So I'm hoping maybe $2-3 to just at least fill some of them. I think I think that wish list thing is like 80 fucking games, which is absurd. But but I have Pokemon Black 2 and White 2 case, but no game.
There you go.
Good thing I don't want to buy it complete because it's outrageous and because empty. The base game is fucking dumb now too. But considering how many millions of copies,
I dropped too much money on those. Not that long ago.
I know. Well, and those are crazy because those sold millions of copies, millions and millions, and we would sell 5, 6, 7 a day of those games when they were newer. You know what I mean? And it's just how is that game so fucking expensive? But so that's it. That's kind of it. I did a wish list of I have some Genesis cases that don't have games, and a lot of those are
that's cool.
Most Genesis stuff isn't worth anything. So it's I need to find a copy of Aladdin for Genesis. Okay, I'll look for one.
I'm just excited to look at stuff.
Yeah, but now that I haven't in 5 years, the list, it's easier for me to remember.
Not half price books.
Yeah.
Well, this doesn't help me. I'm selling my Genesis stuff, and I have a complete version of Aladdin.
Okay.
Already, but now you're just going to have a complete version.
So now, great. So now I got to kill a case. Damn.
Yeah, the case to get rid of.
Yeah. I don't even care about Genesis that much. It just feels wrong to me to have empty cases.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's honestly why I'm getting rid of some stuff. I've been doing such an inventory of my game collection.
Yeah.
Because there was, I've been going pretty hard for about, 10 years of just really acquiring stuff. And now I'm sort of looking at certain things. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about the Genesis. Why do I, why do I have this? So I'm still going to have a lot of stuff, but some of this.
We talk about it all the time.
Master System stuff, just things like that.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time, but I have a complete copy of Musha for Genesis, right? I came upon it in a certain way where it cost me almost nothing. But I also don't care. That's not a game I ever cared about. I didn't have a Genesis growing up, but obviously the game's crazy expensive now. The ideal situation would be for me to, and we always use it as an example, is I'd much rather have a complete Harvest Moon for Super Nintendo. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
Is there some way I could transform it into that without having to sell and buy? That would be the ideal scenario. But most people aren't looking for trades when you're on these Facebook groups and stuff and doing stuff. It's
because they have that stuff and they want
stuff.
more stuff.
Right. They don't want trade. They want cash to buy stuff they can sell.
I still say you should bring it with and see if there's any of these places that have, there'll be one booth that has a Harvest Moon.
Yeah. I mean, it's possible. I've seen it there before.
It's worth shooting the shot.
To be fair, I don't even know where Musha is right now, so it doesn't really matter. That's how much I don't care. It's put away.
Yeah,
it's not on the shelf like my Earthbound and stuff is. It's in a box.
Yeah.
There you go.
Nathan from Stratford, Wisconsin. Hey, dudes, I got a quick retro question for you. Apologize if this has been asked in the past. What's one of the coolest things in your collection that's unique or unusual? I actually have a good answer for you, Dan, but for me, I don't know if I have anything that's really unique or unusual. I do enjoy the fact that I have a sealed copy of Rondo of Blood. That still blows my mind that I have that. And then the only other maybe cool or I wouldn't say unusual, but maybe more uncommon is that 64 Castlevania Blockbuster with intact case. Because that was a Blockbuster exclusive. Yeah, that's pretty crazy to own. I was going to say for you, Dan, you have a fucking Nintendo Switch Interactive.
I've got a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, weirder stuff.
That's the first thing that came to my mind when I read this email. I don't really have anything unusual, but Dan does.
Yeah, if we're talking about non-game things, my Nintendo Switch Interactive is probably number one. I'm especially, quote unquote, proud of that because it was only in a store for 6 months. It wasn't, it's not like it's heavily used and I got it out of a dumpster or anything. It is the one from the store and it's in really good shape and it has the TV that came with it. And
you were able to get that whole thing intact, basically. The only thing he took out
touch screen thing because the Nintendo rep needed it for another unit, but he left the TV. So I was like, all right, you know what? That's fine. The TV's more important. Most
of the times when they were going to get rid of those, they would usually leave the TV though.
Not for something this new. He wanted to take it. but I convinced him to let me keep it. He had to take the Switch, obviously, which is fine because that was that was a demo unit. I don't really care about either. But so that's probably number one. Number two is by Funko Land Neon Sign for sure.
Yeah.
Another thing that I have
also holds
in a roundabout way, and I got it for free, but it's incredibly sentimental to me because not only is it the store that I shopped at as a kid, but it was my GameStop that I ran. Like somehow I ended up with that sign
closed.
Wild because it was not in the store when I worked there ever. It was I got it from somebody else. Game wise, if we just want to talk about like weird stuff and not just like I have Earthbound Complete, it's I have a couple interactive GameCube demo discs with the case that they came in because they came in real GameCube cases. One of them I have. Let me look it up really quick because one of them is like one of the ones you would actually want, if that makes sense. Because a lot of them would have like shit nobody cares about on them, like a video for Pokemon Channel or some shit like that. Right, just nobody cares. One of them, version 16. I don't even know what's on this. Is worth $459. I don't know what even it is.
Probably something Pokemon.
Probably has. It might be. There was one or two of them that had a thing where it was like you got Jirachi off of it or something if you brought in your Game Boy and hooked it up. So I've got a couple of those. I have a bunch of not for resale like DS and 3DS demo things that they never took back. I'm sure I've got other weird shit laying around, but a lot of another cool one that I've thought about was when Wind Waker for GameCube came out. I think it was a promo item, but it wasn't like one you could get. I have a bobblehead of him standing on a platinum GameCube, and I believe the Nintendo rep gave that to like the store, and I said, "Oh, cool, you're giving that to me." And I just took it because it was, it's a cool thing that I, every time now and then you see like people's Zelda collections online, and I don't typically see that like in their setup thing because I don't know how many of them there were. Same thing goes with
how many of them got taken home.
Yeah, or whatever. The other thing I have like that was I won a Nintendo contest at work for a Yoshi's Island statue where it's Yoshi with Mario riding on his back. There weren't a ton of those. And then one of my favorite things I ever got was when the Game Boy Classics line came out, they gave us t-shirts. And one was Zelda, one was Excite Bike, one was Donkey Kong, whatever the first six games there were. And we got to wear them at work. And I still have Zelda and Excite Bike. And they're pretty cool.
Yeah, your list is much longer than mine.
That's just like, but that's that's the quote unquote perk of working at these places for 15
cool
years.
Final Fantasy 15 stand up.
Oh, that you can see behind me in the corner over there. Yeah.
I was going to say the one piece of marketing that I have, like, and when we moved, I got rid of a lot of those posters and stuff because a lot of them were really beat up. But one that I saved that still I think is really cool because they made it as a window poster at GameStop for this game, kind of crazy. But my Dragon Quest 9 for the DS, that's a really cool one that, like, kind of crazy they made that a window poster.
I have a probably 8-foot tall Ultimate Spider-Man window vinyl.
That's a good
from
one.
Like the Xbox game.
Oh, wow.
Which was meant to go on the windows outside, but for whatever reason we never put it up, and I have it. I don't know what the hell it would ever fucking do with it, but I have it. It exists.
You would have it.
Yeah,
that's
what you do. Hold up in a box in a closet in the basement.
There you go.
Yeah, I think of the stuff that I can think of, and my way of collecting, I usually, if I stumble upon something like that, it's very cool to have, but I'm not going to put money into getting an item like that. It's just not a thing.
Same.
So the coolest things that I have, the thing I mentioned earlier, it's small, but it's silly, that Seattle Mariners Mario pin.
That's great. Yeah, I love that.
That is cool.
Like, that's such a cool little thing. Cool. I have one of it's from, I think 2018 is what I looked up. It is the McDonald's Happy Meal display. I don't have the case for it, but I have the display for some Super Mario toys.
Cool.
Like the one that they would put out in the lobby.
Yeah.
I just have that part. I don't know if I want to invest the money that it would cost to get one of the hard display things. I have a GameStop. I think it's from GameStop Amiibo kiosk.
Yep.
That is
I
one
had a chance to take that, and for some reason I did not. I don't know why.
Yeah, that is one because of just how I'm doing the complete set and everything.
Yeah,
I saw one at a store down in Naples, Florida, when I was working down there, and I FedExed that motherfucker back to my house. So it was worth having. It's a cool little road story. Just having.
Does it work?
I've never. It did. Yeah, it like I bought it because it was like we're in the store.
Mm-hmm.
Like he had it set up.
Interesting.
To where it was like running.
You can tell
and all that kind of stuff.
I forget how, but there's a way to access like the debug menu on it, and you can tell where it's from there.
Oh,
because Best Buy and somebody else had them, and they have codes in them that tell them like where they are. But
got it. Yeah, my thought. I believe it was GameStop. There is also the chance it's because since I've got it, it's still in that FedEx box right now.
Of course, yes.
Because like just basically life happened in a way. So I bought it. This was right after AGT, so I was on tour.
Yeah,
down in Naples. So like I shipped it home. I was barely home at this time because of because of touring. Then the pandemic hits. And my room's just full of shit. I don't know what to do with it.
Things also
a couple months
heavy as hell.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
A couple months into the pandemic is when she's now my wife, but at the time we were just dating, where we decided we were going to move in together. So I moved across the country from Indiana to California at that time into her tiny little apartment. Now we're in a much bigger house, but we're renting. And we kept telling ourselves for a long time, like, oh, we're not going to be here that long. It's like, let's not get everything too crazy set up because it's not our perm. Now we've been here like 4 years and have a kid and stuff. So maybe I should bust it. It's just in the garage right now, chilling. Maybe I should bust it up.
You'll probably need some slat wall, and it's heavy as fuck. So if I remember right.
Yeah. So right now it's just going to live in that box until I figure out what life is going to do.
Yeah.
Or I do need to replace the amiibos. I still have the original amiibos, but they're very sun faded. So you can put in whatever you want, but I think I need to get like I want to have the original one, so I just need to buy loose of.
Yeah,
it's like Mario.
It was the OGs,
like whatever the original. Yeah.
I don't have anything as cool as all of you fuckers, so I mean, I think out of if I had,
you do have Ratatouille for Game Boy.
Yeah, I got Ratatouille.
So I mean, you're.
I stumbled across this deal on Facebook. A guy I've done deals with in the past, and he had a Neo Geo Pocket. Okay. So I stumbled across
those.
That.
Are cool.
It was really dope, and it kind of didn't even work out that way. Like I went to his house to get something else, and he was like, "Hey, I've got this system. You want to take a look at it?" And I was like, "Yeah, bring it out, man. Let me see it." And then just stumbled across that, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take this too. Just throw it in the pack. We'll go from there. When I went to the Southeast Gaming Expo, the first year I went out, I took a bunch of stuff that I didn't play, so I could trade it up for other things. Like I got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the arcade game in box. I got Batman Returns in box, and then for some deranged reason, I stumbled across Mickey's Raceway for N64. Okay. And he just chucked it in the deal. He was like, you can have this too. And I was like, sure, I'll take it as complete in box. It's got this cool little case on it. I haven't stumbled across anything random. I think the coolest thing I've been able to get from somebody is I've got a movie theater-sized poster of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
And I just got that last year.
That's cool.
Thankfully,
I mean, the movie just came out last year.
No, he's had it for a decade.
Whatever. But I think that's probably the coolest, newest thing I was able to catch, because thankfully one of my best friends knows the manager of the movie theater. Mm-hmm. So I was like, hey man, can I get that? And he just brought it to my house the day after they took all the signs down. And I was like, now where the fuck am I going to put it? Now I got to get
That's the problem with some of this stuff. It's a slippery slope when you get this cool stuff, but it's like, what do you do with it? Like your brain in that moment is like, hell yeah, give me that. Yep. That's awesome. And then you're like, where does that go?
Just thinking about other things that are in the closet in the basement, and Kyle will appreciate. I have a Dead or Alive 4 standee that was never set up. I have a Final Fantasy 12 standee, which was never set up. I have an original Dead Rising poster, which I know Kyle would.
That's a cool
one. Wow. And then the last thing I can remember that I think people would appreciate just because it is retro and like old stuff is I have a Rubbermaid tub, like the big ones, full of promotional items from Game Crazy days, which would be like 02 to 09 when getting free stuff with a game was commonplace. Yeah. I have a bucket full, and by full I mean full.
Of random
I don't even know what's in it. Like I looked through it once a couple of years ago, and I found on top was Mario and Yoshi plushies that were a Game Crazy exclusive giveaway with the pre-order and purchase of Super Mario Advance 4.
Wow.
And it's just like they're still in the baggie with the Game Crazy logo on it and everything. Like it's just it all got filed away, put away.
Yeah, I mean, you're sitting on some money there if you want to go through it. Like, I don't know what your intentions are.
I would love to display it. Like that's the thing is, I would love to display this stuff, but like, I don't know what the hell to do.
Yeah. What do you put away? What do you get rid of to display it? Where do you buy a new house?
Oh, Lord. I don't need another one. Like these money pits.
Final email we have, very short one, comes to us from Zach from Waycross, Georgia. Simply just says Resident Evil 9. Like that has to be announced this year, right? It's long overdue. Thanks. I think so. I think it's time.
We've talked about it.
We got Resident Evil 4 remake that was a year ago, right? About this time?
Yeah.
March?
Yeah.
Gosh, that was a year already. I think it's time. I think this E3 time. June, when we get a PlayStation conference, we get a Microsoft conference, I bet you it shows up there, and I bet you it's a January to March of next year release.
But do you think it's 9 or do you think it's soft reboot like we've talked about before? Because where the hell does this thing go?
The story, I mean, they have a blank slate right now because the story of that character from 7 and 8 is over definitively. So if they wanted to soft reboot it, they certainly could. If they wanted to just come out and say it's fucking Resident Evil 9, they could do that, and I would be okay. I don't know. I would say though, like you said, they have that blank slate. So if they really wanted to do a soft reboot and just, hey, here's the future of Resident Evil, it's just called Resident Evil.
Do you think it's like something where they try to take a big step like they did with 7, where they just said, fuck Resident Evil in the past, like this is what it is now?
Maybe, but the other thing I will tell you is just from how it's been going, I think they're done with first person because they ditched. Look at Resident Evil 8 as a prime example.
It's true.
They put out the like gold version where you can play through the entirety in third person now as that character, and that DLC where you play as his daughter is only third person.
Yeah.
And of these games, those remakes have sold better.
I wonder if it almost makes sense to like make Resident Evil third person again and then just make the VR ones
first person.
Yeah. And just do it like that.
I could see it.
The VR ones are popular.
They are. I could see it. I mean, at this point, I'm not upset if you did a soft reboot. I really don't want to see. I use a character that hasn't been used in a while. I don't really want to see Chris Redfield for a while, and I really don't want to see Leon for a while because I'm tired of Leon. So use Jill, bring back Sheva. What was the chick from 6 that was with Leon? Elena, bring her back. Do somebody that hasn't done it in a while.
Let's do that. Let's team them up.
Yeah.
You can even, I guess Claire was technically pretty recent too, but you can do Claire Redfield again, or give me the Code Veronica remake. And we wait a little while longer.
Have they announced any more remakes?
No. They put out a survey, and they had on that survey Code Veronica and Resident Evil 5.
No, it's just going to be Raccoon City, man. It's just Raccoon City again.
Well,
Gaiden.
I would love to see Resident Evil 5 remake.
I just don't know if they'll keep doing that, because like I want to see Resident Evil 1 get remade. I know it's already been remade, once before, but
I would like to see it remade. I mean, Resident Evil 1 is my favorite video game of all time, specifically the GameCube version. And I love that version. I've played it more times than I can count at this point. But I would like to see them remake it the way 2 and 3 have been remade, and 4.
Yeah.
I think to see that way would be very cool.
We're forgetting Dead Aim.
Resident Evil
and
Boat.
Survivor. And
you could do a boat one.
We've already done the boat one. Revelations is a boat one.
True. Revelations 1 is a boat one, and then also the second part of 7 takes place on a tanker. So if you want to get real,
Cold Fear is Resident Evil on a boat.
And I mean, think about it. This most recent one, you kind of did, in a way, they were able to do other things like vampires and werewolves, even though they weren't really, you know what I mean? They were mutations. Yeah. They've gone so far, I guess in a good way, they've gone so far up their own ass with like the story of that fucking game that, like, if I were in charge of it, I'd do a soft reboot at this point. Kind of like what I've said for a while with Halo. Do a soft reboot at this point. Just
I want literal zombie boats.
Yeah, there you go.
I want the boat. Yes. I want Titanic to come out from the depths.
The Lusitania.
And other boats. Yes.
There you go. But yeah, that otherwise, as always, thanks for the emails. You can email us at podcast572@gmail.com. Otherwise, we'll be back in another 2 weeks for another edition of podcast. Ryan, if there's anything you want to plug before we wrap up, this will be your time.
Yeah, sure. Cripplethreat.com has my touring schedule on there. Real handicap, guys. I swear I wasn't just talking shit earlier.
You guys are going to be blown away when you see him on stage and he's completely normal. It's weird.
Yeah, the AI version of me has arms. It's really weird.
Hologram. You and Tupac on stage.
I ask this every time. I always forget. When does this actually go up from current day?
This should go up tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay, so I can announce. I'm in St. Louis next weekend, the 14th and the 16th.
Great.
At the Funny Bone. I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana on the 28th. The 12th and 13th, I'm in Dayton, Ohio. So I'm doing some Midwest stuff coming up here. And then I'm in Warsaw, Indiana on May 4th. So get them tickets. You can get them on my website, cripplethreat.com.
And Kyle and I have seen him in person.
And you guys suck.
We swear he's real.
Yeah.
He's funny, and I swear he is disabled. I promise.
Yeah, exactly. Like so crippled. I got the parking and everything. It's crazy.
But as always, thanks again for coming on and joining us.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you guys. I like these marathon nerd sessions. I don't get a lot of this right now. With not to get too sappy, but my life is pretty much 24/7 keeping a human being alive. So it's nice to get to have some of these moments where I just get to dork out a little bit. Yes. So thank you guys.
Yeah, we love it.
Appreciate you.
No problem. Well, as always, thanks for listening. We'll see you in another 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone.
Be safe.